Hello.
Christine, what's cooking, man?
Oh my God.
What is
Well,
going on, you little pregnant crazy person? What's going
the
on?
cat's out of the bag, folks.
You are with Demon, and I'm very excited about it.
I am with the demon, and my Catholic grandmother just rolled over in her grave. But
Yay!
yes, you're right. The rumors are true. I am pregnant, and I'm so excited to be able to complain about it openly.
And now I get to wear this in public.
Oh, I'm so happy you wore it.
I have almost accidentally worn it on like 3 Instagram lives, and then I went, oh, and then
It's a Funkle M sweatshirt for those of you who aren't watching the YouTube.
yeah, it's a charming simple sweatshirt, which I appreciate, and like a little
A little
chromatic. Is
color
that
block
a little
situation.
love a good color block? But
I
then you
know.
gave me the little tinge of buffalo
Yeah,
plaid, which I
I made
also
that on
love.
Photoshop actually because it was I
I thought
had
you were gonna
to.
say on your fucking Cricut.
I actually bought, this is not a joke. I bought buffalo plaid vinyl for shirts, but then I was like, I should just order it online because I don't trust myself to make this. But yeah, it's true. I am okay, this is the big thing. So I posted about it. Okay, there's a lot. But first of all, I posted the video, the Maltese Bagans, which
Let's do a deep dive because I still have questions.
I don't know. It's really chaotic. It's I tried to get Zach to tell M the news and he fucking fully ignored me and nobody's surprised.
I mean, like true to form, he did exactly what was expected of him. So
Yes.
he didn't like lower anyone's expectations,
No.
and he met our
He
standards.
maintained them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I mean, first of all, what a wild way. I think like a while ago, I'm sure you remember this, but just to refresh everyone else's memory, at some point I said like, "Oh, if you ever got pregnant, like I would expect a really like extravagant reveal for
Mhm.
no reason because I'm not actually involved in this, but I am."
I think I was pregnant when you said that, and I'm pretty sure I was in the midst of this, and I was like, I don't know, we'll see him.
Well, I'm glad that we were on each other's wavelength then.
Yeah.
But but I remember saying that, and then the first time I was watching the video, I was like, wow, she really delivered. I was like, I did
Oh
not
my.
expect her to try to. She literally had our manager try to reach out to Zach's team, who
I
by the way
tried.
also ignored her, right?
Yes, that made me feel better that I wasn't the only one being blatantly ignored. Like our manager was ignored. Our manager had some PR folks reach out. They were ignored. Like we really tried and it really failed. Um,
They probably were like, oh, and that's why we drank the show that just bitches about you all the time. We're not even going to entertain them with an email
no, we're
back.
not even gonna read their message. So it was painful, and so I made a film noir video to kind of represent my sadness, and I just forced Zach into the video itself. So
It
that's
was
really
I mean, award winning. It hasn't happened yet,
oh
but it should be. And that was the insanity it took to create that. Is exactly again, you met everyone's standards,
well, I
just
appreciate
just
that
as Zach did.
because I because maintaining standards on my end is a lot more work than him maintaining his standards, which is just ignoring us. But it's
His is
okay.
do nothing, and yours is do everything humanly possible.
I don't top myself, but so
Tell us your
I
story. How did you find
oh my
out?
god. Okay, well, first of all, I was gonna say I'm gonna make a video soon about people's reactions to me telling them because
Uh-huh.
I had this weird it probably tells me something about myself and I probably need to do some introspection because the top three responses. So Lisa, when I told Aunt Lisa, I got her a Starbucks cup and I had them put Great Aunt Lisa on the sticker, like on the
Yeah.
Starbucks cup. So I gave her that and I was like, they spelled your name wrong. And she's like, oh, that's okay. And I was like, well, maybe you should read it. And so she read it and then she screamed, you bitch. And I was like, okay. And I told Renee, and Renee was like, fuck you. And then I told Em with this video, and Em FaceTimed me and went, you pregnant psycho. And I was like, what have I done to deserve this like really antagonistic
Mine
response?
was fucking justified, by the way, because
Okay, fair.
I had just seen this Zach Bagans creation that came out of like the 3 a.m. folds of your mind. And I was like, only a crazy person could make this. So calling you a pregnant psycho felt fair.
No,
Um,
yours is the only justified one. You're completely right.
I will say a lot of people have already asked me because I just did Movie Monday and a lot of people asked me what my reaction was and if there was a recording of it. And I want to defend myself before people come at me, because Allison made a bold fucking call. And apparently, so Christine told Allison before, and then they were conspiring to get me to hide a camera somewhere and film me watching this video for the first time. Allison chose 30 seconds after a deep sleep.
Yeah, you were in nap time mode.
It was one of those naps where like you wake up and you're like, what year is it?
Oh no.
30 seconds later, I was on a couch watching a video that video. So I still thought I was in the middle of a goddamn fever dream. And I remember I did not look happy. I was so confused because I was like, what, am I still asleep? This cannot be a real thing. And then at some point I figured it out. And when you hear on the video, like Christine's pregnant, I kind of also didn't have a reaction because I've already told you this, but for the last 2 or 3 months, I have been telling Allison, I was like, I think Christine's pregnant. I think Christine's pregnant. And I'd been saying it nonstop. And then when it said Christine's pregnant, I was like, son of a bitch. I was right.
Yeah. A couple people have commented and been like, yeah, I kind of had a feeling because somebody said nobody drinks Gatorade, solely Gatorade, for several months without a reason. And I was like,
okay, but I did, to be fair.
Okay, but you don't drink booze, so it's kind of like, why do I keep insisting on how many different Gatorade flavors I'm drinking?
I see. That was a good astute,
I thought so too.
Observation.
So people were very kind and very supportive. People were very kind about the video, which is on YouTube. I'm gonna do a video of people's reactions. Even M's stoic and like.
It was I really wish that we filmed me watching it the second time.
I know, I'm so bummed it didn't film the second watch.
After I processed what was happening, I watched it with fresh eyes to be like, let's just like really go into how fucking crazy Christine's brain is. And then I was cackling and laughing and having the reaction everyone wanted, and it didn't get filmed.
Oh well.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the little baby that you're gonna see me looking really disappointed that you're here.
I think this baby will be fine because everyone is so kind and supportive. And the people's favorite thing. So Alexander made a good point the other day. He's like, I think Em and I are getting more praise and excitement than Blaze is. Like,
yeah,
which is so funny. People are like, Funkle Em and Funkle Sandy.
I've been getting so many people have been sliding into my DMs just saying like, congrats Funkle Em, and I've been like, is Blaze get it? Like, congrats Dad. Like, is this happening? No.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Perfect. And also I just want to say for the 1,000th time, and I will say it a million times more, I cannot wait to ruin this baby with creepy things. Like,
yes, I can't wait to just drop this baby off at summer camp and just leave for 3 months. And
I'm going to teach this kid, like, I know that we are distanced now, so I really have to make my time worth it when I'm around this child. I'm going to teach them how to like point at a corner and just like kind of talk to themselves.
No, that's not nice.
And then just walk away and then just leave you kind of stunned.
Just remember that whatever you do to my child, someday I will get retribution depending on what level of evil.
Joke's on you. I'm going to have the weirdest kid whether or not you're involved. You're only going to enhance this thing.
Okay,
like,
fine.
I'm prepared for my kid to be creep factor 3,000. So like if you want to make a creep factor 4,000, I encourage it. Do whatever you got to do.
I will.
Just don't hand it a goddamn Ouija board. Okay.
Well,
that's my one ask.
Oh, come on. That was the only thing I wanted to do. Okay, whatever.
You can let them chew on the pendant or something. But that's it. What's it called?
The planchette.
Planchette.
Man,
let them chew on a planchette.
To ghost school again. I also wanted to say people are excited about Funkle M and people are excited that it's an October baby because it's going to be a spooky season Halloween baby. The only thing is
I know
cutting it a little. I was hoping it would be closer to Scorpio season just for M's sake.
So the universe could punch me right in the stomach.
I was hoping, but no. So it's October 1st, the due date, which is like smack dab in the middle of Libra season. But my mother told me I was born exactly 3 weeks late to the day. So I actually was meant to be a Taurus, which I can't picture. And
Thank God.
I know I was meant to be
no
a
offense
Taurus.
to Taurus, but like I don't think I'd vibe with you as well
Yeah,
if we weren't on the same chaotic Gemini level.
Yeah, I can't fathom it. It would be totally different. But so I was meant to be a Taurus, but so I was born 3 weeks to the day late. And if this baby is born 3 weeks to the day late, well then
I won't be your friend anymore.
Big trouble.
I'd be like, the show's over. We gotta go.
Yeah.
When I called Christine and said like congratulations after I watched the video, the first thing out of Christine's mouth was it might be a Scorpio. And I went, the second it's even near Scorpio season, you just got to start pushing. Like it'll figure it out. It'll
Yeah, I was
realize
like,
what
I'm
you're
gonna
doing.
call the OB and be like, you need to induce this pregnant lady,
It's
get
like,
it
just
out.
go to the hospital, refuse to leave. They'll have to take the baby out. They have to.
Oh my god. Anyway, so we'll see, but it's not going to change anything for the show. No, but everyone was really kind. Like nobody was like, "Oh no," I mean, everyone was just like super supportive and kind. And yeah, it's not going to change anything for the show. We're still planning on retouring. I don't know the proper word, but
Yes. And also we plan on still having weekly episodes for you.
Mhm.
I'm not a monster. I'm letting Christine like have maternity leave. I'm not saying we have we're doing backlog recordings coming up. So by the time the baby's here, Christine gets a nice little break and you will still get your weekly content. So no worries there.
Nothing's gonna be, it'll just probably be me complaining a lot more, which I mean is hard to imagine since we do it already so much. But
Question: at what point
yes.
do I get to see your little belly? Because
Well,
I
I'm
haven't
18.
seen it.
I'm 19 weeks now, and I feel like I'm finally starting. And I have a storied past with
Your belly?
well, sort of TWTW with like eating disorder stuff. So I've
I
been
see.
very very like dealing with the changes of like, oh, now my stomach's going to be huge and it's supposed to be that way. You know what I mean?
Educational moment. I didn't realize that pregnancy could trigger that. Which like
Yes.
did not even occur to me because in my mind it would be like, well, it's expected that it would happen, but I guess it
Right.
could very well bring up trauma.
It's sort of one of those things where you're like, your brain knows obviously this is good and it's supposed to happen, but then like your kind of
I see.
at least my instinctual reaction is like, oh no, but obviously,
Well, then excuse my ignorant as
No,
shit
no, no, no,
question.
no. That's sorry. I just meant that as a side note. But so I'm like, I guess when this comes out, I'll be 19 weeks, which is supposedly when it starts to be, more prominent. But as you know, wear giant shirts anyway. So I feel like it'll be a few more weeks till it's like, I can't hide it anymore. Yes, sir.
So so as the pregnancy goes further, I mean, we can delete this if this is too
No,
TMI,
listen.
but as
Boy.
as the pregnancy goes further and your stomach gets bigger, will your trauma be more intense
I
from the
don't
past?
think so because I think it'll be more of like, oh, it's not just like that I'm like gaining a little weight. It's like, oh, this is my body's completely different. I don't think it'll be an issue.
Got
And
it.
I've definitely like gotten kind of over it because I had to. But no, no, no. I'll be totally fine. I'm excited. I've got some nice new look. I got my tie. This is actually a maternity shirt. It's a little tie-dye sweatshirt.
Okay, but wait, so considering I'm like 2 or 3 sizes bigger than you, can I just have that after you have the baby? Because
Absolutely.
that would fit me quite
That's the thing
nicely.
is like all the clothes I bought, I'm like, I'm just replacing my entire wardrobe because everything is just XL and baggy and stretchy. I'm like, oh my God, I'm never wearing anything else again. Like, why would I ever wear tight clothes again?
You know, I've already said this to you, but the only true curse of this pregnancy is that you are on the other side of the country and finally have the same eating habits as
I've
I do.
actually
And
cried about it twice now.
think
What
of the cheesecake we could fit into our
it's
stomachs right
it's
now.
actually like really like the first time I thought about it, I hadn't told you yet. And so it was really hard because I was like, I can't even like express this to Em how we can't even have a Zoom date where we eat a lot. But then the second time I cried about it was when you said it. And I was like, I haven't said it because I didn't want to like make it a thing. But when you said it, I was like, now we both understand how sad this is.
The first time we finally are both always hungry.
Always hungry.
It could be a real nightmare on
And
our wallets
actually,
if
one thing
we
I've been
knew.
meaning to tell you that I wanted to wait for the show is that the biggest pregnancy craving I have had is
Don't.
sandwiches. All ear sandwiches.
I predicted this
You are
goddamn
not
baby.
fucking around. Like all I want is sandwiches day in day. It doesn't matter what kind. I mean, I don't eat meat, so it's like, either vegetarian sandwiches or egg and cheese or PB and J or PB and banana. I mean, sandwiches day in day out and like
It is, I literally called it is the year of the
it was
sandwiches. And then
killing me not telling you that.
wow. I am I think, a magician.
Yeah, and you
I'm
also apparently said this might be the year we meet our kids. And so I'm like, well, you
Christine,
do say that every year, to be fair.
I actually take it back. I'm a sorcerer, apparently. Everything I say is fact. This is the year of the sandwich.
Oh my God. Yeah. So that's okay. That's sorry. One more thing, and then I'm totally done with this, and we go into the to show whatever. But
You're having a baby. We're allowed to have a whole thing.
I just
Everyone
feel like
understands.
I've known since January 19th. Em's known for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks or something.
Yes, probably a good month.
A good month. And so it's been killer not saying anything, and I was really nauseous those first 3 months. So if you listen back, I probably don't. I mean, I'm pretty good at acting, but I was probably a little bit nauseated. But the only other thing that was really tough not saying anything was the week where my app said your baby is the size of a lemon, and I was like, I wanted to share that so badly, and I was like, I had to send it to like my mom, and she was like, "Well, that's nice," and I was like, "No, you don't understand." So my mother-in-law was like all over it, and I was like, "Thank you, Sherry," because I needed someone to appreciate the fun fact. But
what size are they right now?
This week a bell pepper,
or
a bagel.
A bagel. They're a little bagel bite.
Well, a big bagel bite.
Okay, but they're
the appropriate size bagel bite.
They're my little bagel bite.
And let me see when it comes out. When this comes out, let's see what last week it was a croissant, and I was like, absolutely not. I want nothing to do with this. But I have one app that tells me like 90s style stuff, like
that's fun.
Yeah, it's like, really fun. Like last week,
your baby's the size of a bop it.
Like literally. Oh my God! Can you imagine if it was the shape of a bop it?
Just don't bop it. You know,
please don't bop it. Don't twist it. Don't bop it. Don't slam it. Whatever.
Don't shake it. Don't shake it.
Don't shake it. Let's see. The one that was a slingshot. Well, that seems dangerous.
And not 90s.
And also not 90s. I don't know where I may or may not have like 11 apps that I use to just have different fun facts every day. It's actually kind of obnoxious. If
it's a bell pepper, then I'm thinking like a koosh ball, you know?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I haven't seen that one yet.
A Nerf football, maybe. No, that's too big.
Because last week it was a cassette tape.
Precious.
So I thought that was kind of fun.
Also, you said, I know this is obvious because you're pregnant, but wine apparently is the thing that's made you the most sick.
Yes. You know what?
Like the smell or the thought of wine has made you like ill.
Nauseous beyond all belief. Like the thought of honestly, the thought of red wine is repulsive. And I'm convinced that my body was like, we will not survive this. Like the baby will not survive unless we make Christine like
we have to flip the switch.
Yeah, exactly. Like the kill switch on wine has been activated. I want nothing to do with it, which is the wildest thing I've ever experienced because it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm very thankful about that because, it could be, I feel like it could be harder. You know what? I don't know, Em. I'm gonna find this later because I have so many stupid apps that I don't actually know which one has the.
I'm rocking with a koosh ball.
I like a koosh ball. That's probably not wrong. Let's see. Oh, next week it'll be the size. Oh, last week it was the size of a cheesecake. Look at this.
Get out of fucking town.
I'm telling you. It's been really hard not fucking harassing you every day about this. So now that I've been let loose out of my cage, I'm gonna be just a disaster. So I apologize to everybody.
I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait. I'm gonna get the app too, like a true uncle, and just I'll be like, did you know that your baby's the size of a cheesecake now? 2 cheesecakes, actually.
An entire cheesecake. Yes. So anyway, that's my fun fact of the day. Now that's not about me anymore.
No worries. I guess that's it. I mean, there's no other reason why we should drink this week. I think that's just it.
I drink Gatorade as always. So
Christine, guess what just got sent to the house? A whole box of Daily Harvest. And somehow I didn't end up with the entire box because now I see a whole bunch of initials that aren't mine written all up on all these little containers that are in our freezer and our fridge now. But
I hope you at least got a flatbread out of the deal.
I got a flatbread. That's all that matters.
Daily Harvest delivers delicious food, all built on organic fruits and vegetables right to your door. It takes literally minutes. We don't need to worry about if the food is good for us, because it is. And they never use preservatives, added sugar, or artificial anything. They even have this recently launched almond milk that I love, which is made of only almonds and a dash of sea salt. That's it. It's super convenient. If you're going to make a smoothie, which you should, you can use their almond milk. It's amazing.
Daily Harvest is also committed to minimizing their environmental impact, and they're in the process of transitioning to 100% compostable, recyclable, plant-based, and renewable fiber packaging. And Daily Harvest is undeniably delicious, clean food without the prep. You're not going to be able to keep your hands on it because your roommates are going to steal it from you. So there you have it.
Get started today. Go to dailyharvest.com and enter promo code DRINK to get $25 off your first box.
That's promo code DRINK for $25 off your first box at dailyharvest.com.
Dailyharvest.com.
Warby Parker is committed to providing exceptional vision care online and in stores, offering eyeglasses, sunglasses, eye exams, and contact lenses.
Glasses start at just $95, including prescription lenses, which tells you why I have multiple pairs. They have sunglasses, progressives, and blue light lenses, which I also have. And I've even tried their contacts, and they're great. Warby Parker is now my go-to for any glasses, especially when I want to look like Jeffrey Dahmer and wear my cool, trendy, hip Dahmer glasses.
And if you have an iPhone 10, you can download Warby Parker's app where you can use their brand new virtual try-on, which allows you to try on eyeglasses and see the realistic color, texture, and size of each style just using your phone.
It is so great. I still have a folder on my phone called Glasses, and it's just all the virtual try-ons that I posted on Instagram and made everyone vote. It really is a fun app. Highly recommend, even if you're just looking for something to do, try on some different glasses. Try Warby Parker's free home try-on program. Order 5 pairs of glasses to try at home for free for 5 days. There's no obligation to buy, ships free, and includes a prepaid return shipping label.
Try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/drink. All right, so if you enjoyed the last half an hour of pregnancy updates, we're gonna quickly take a turn.
Sorry.
This is probably, I don't know if I want to tell you yet. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna make you wait for it.
Okay.
But this is the story. Also, this is episode 222, my lucky
That's
episode.
right. You're welcome, Em.
Same. Thank you for raining on my parade, but in the best way.
We all knew I would do it.
I love it. I'm very excited. Good news. So this story is I don't know how to say the name properly because it's French, but I'm thinking it's Martha Barode. Because it's Martha with an E at the end instead of an A. Martha Barode?
Probably Marta.
Barode. It doesn't matter because she changes her own name, and this
Perfect.
is also the story of
She couldn't
Eva.
pronounce it either.
Her name's Eva.
Wow. Okay.
Eva Carrière.
Oh my God.
Eva C is what I'm going to call her. And that's what she also went by a lot of times. So Eva C.
Was it Ava, like the French, like the European version?
I don't know. I really don't know.
It throws
I
me
should
off
have watched like one YouTube video and I didn't. I'm sorry.
It throws me off because no, but it's hard. Like you'd think it'd be easier to find pronunciation of things, but it throws me off because Eva, obviously is pronounced Eva, but for my aunt's name is spelled the same way, but it's Ava or Ava. And so it took me a long time to get that right. So I don't know. That's the only reason I ask.
I am going to ignorantly Americanize it and just say Eva because that's the way. It's just how I've heard it in my head this whole time, and now I can't undo it. It's kind of like how I still don't think of her as Hermione because when I read the books, I thought her name was Hermione.
Wait, that's so much worse. Because I thought it was Hermione.
That makes a lot more fucking sense.
Or I've heard Hermione. There's been quite a few. Hermione. What did you say? Hermione. That's rough, dude. That's really rough.
So now that's all I hear her. So now when I look at her on TV, I never think, oh, there's Hermione. I think there's Hermione.
That's real rough, man. Hermione is a new level.
It's like wine and wine. There's like a tang. There's like wine.
Yeah,
it sounds like I'm in reverse.
It sounds like you're underwater in reverse. Yeah.
But so this
rough.
I've been reading this for many moons as Eva. So
okay, just do Eva. I'm sorry to even to go there. Not necessary on my part.
No, Martha Barode, aka Eva Carrière, aka Eva C, also known by some reports as the Queen of Ectoplasm.
Oh, okay.
So this,
I don't
if
want any
you,
more photos. Are there more photos of ectoplasm? Because I didn't love that.
I forgot about it, and yes. So now that you've
No,
said that,
no. Why do I can't keep my mouth shut.
you know what's so what's also really weird is or not really weird, but this is for people who feel like they recognize that name, you might have recently played the escape room, because just like how
Oh.
Helen Duncan, who I mentioned 3 episodes ago, who was known for her mediumship and ectoplasm and how she ended up being debunked,
Mhm.
she got mentioned in my recent escape room, and also so did Eva C, which you can still get on Patreon, by the way.
Do it.
Let me see. Eva, here it is. Also, I'm gonna call her Eva, but to like our Eva. As the story goes on, I am so sorry, and you're gonna know what
What?
I'm talking about. I'm just so sorry. I
Uh,
can't.
oh
It's
no.
hard to use Eva's name because the story gets a little insane, and I it we're gonna have to change the name when I get to that point because I can't. It gets a little X-rated.
Oh no. Why don't
So
we just say Ava then?
okay, Ava, you're right. Okay. I couldn't do it. I couldn't. The whole time I was reading this, I was like, ugh. Okay. So,
Can I add a fun fact before we start? I'm sorry. I
yeah.
couldn't find the 90s, but I did find a millennial version that says the baby is the size of a pint of ice cream. So there you go, Em.
Fun. Oh
I
my gosh.
know.
Okay. Super fun.
Anyway,
Okay.
that's your fun fact. Put you in a good headspace before whatever the hell is about to happen.
It's about to be a real ride. And again, so sorry to our Eva. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna call her Ava just to get through
Mhm.
this. So very quick early upbringing we've got here. So Ava was born in 1886. She is the oldest of 3 girls. Her dad was in the military and they lived in Algeria. Um, that's basically all we know about her youth.
Okay.
As a teenager, Ava was engaged to a guy named Maurice Noel or Noel. I'm not sure. I think it's Noel. She even lived with his family at their villa. Okay, swaggy.
Okay.
And it was called Villa Carmen. So she lived at Villa Carmen with her fiance. And like this again, she was like a young teenager, I think like 17 or 18. And at 18 in 1904, her fiance went to the Congo and apparently died there from a tropical
Oh
disease.
no.
And so he never came back. And she was, I guess, I don't know what widowed means when it's your fiance, but she was now just living on his family's property and didn't
So
know what to do
sad.
with herself. But his death, interestingly, seemed to have sparked psychic abilities in her. So I'm going to take off the Funkle M sweatshirt because it's really hot, and I did it for attention, and now it's over. So
I'm honored you wore it, so I appreciate you doing that. Oh boy. Oh, I keep moving the camera away from you.
look, you know what? Nobody needs it. I'm not an attractive sweatshirt
I
take offer.
beg to differ. Well, actually, now that I'm watching it, I'm not so sure. This is
It's
really
also I've
questionable.
got
Yeah,
headphones. I
this
don't know.
is hasn't been planned properly.
Not cute. I didn't think this one through. Okay. Okay.
Beautiful.
So her fiance's death sparked her abilities. And so her in-laws, they introduced her to seances because their son had passed and her fiance had passed, and spiritualism was kind of, hipping and happening. And so they were like, oh, well, let's start doing seances at our villa. And so they originally had a different medium who did these seances for them. But after about a year of Ava watching this happen, and like observing the seances, learning about them, she ended up feeling pretty confident in it. And she was like, I can just do these myself. So
Love it. Own it.
she started being the one to host seances on the property, and she was able to materialize spirits like with
Oh.
ectoplasm. Like how quickly did you just learn to do that? But okay. Not
Don't
shady
be
or weird at
jealous,
all.
Em. Some people are just naturally talented, okay?
She's just a girl boss.
Wow, that got me by surprise.
Oh, by the way, just for millennials abound, the Gen Zs have a new name for us. It is
I don't want.
chuggy.
I don't want to know
Chew.
why. What's that?
It's pretty much like girl boss energy.
Why is it
So
chuggy?
I don't know where the word came from. I don't know what it means, but I do
Ew.
know that like the Gen Zs are calling us that. Not loving the
No.
sound of the word, but it's kind of like basic bitch meets like Christian Autumn girl,
Oh
like the
no. Like, but first coffee and Jesus.
yes,
Oh
that's
no.
super chuggy, which like apparently it's like
Chuggy.
live laugh lemon,
Oh
live
yikes. How do you
live
spell
laugh
it?
lemon, Cheug.
CHEUG?
Yeah, UG.
What the hell is
I have
that?
no idea where it came from, but like live, laugh, lemon, wearing scarves with everything, uh, girl boss, saying girl boss,
Okay, I'm literally looking at Uggs. Yeah.
chevron, Tory,
Chevron.
like, anything that's like kind of basic
Just
bitchy,
so
but like
basic. Right. Got
so
you.
overdone, and like wood blocks with like nice words on them, or like,
This is
little inspirational
I'm
moments.
literally looking at a list. Everything you're saying is appearing in front of my eyes as you
Oh,
say it.
really?
Yeah, like live, laugh, love, the wood blocks, apparently juicy sweatsuits, Uggs.
People like Disney adults, when you say like people who say doggo, that's chuggy.
Sorry.
Um,
What about fur babies? I bet you that's chuggy as hell.
oh, I'm sure it is. And apparently like Saturdays are for the boys. Like guys can be chuggy too.
Thank God at least
Um,
boys get to be it too. I'm so tired of being targeted.
but anyway, so it's like I don't know if it's meant as
Minions. Sorry.
minions, yeah. Yep. I don't
Okay.
know if it's meant to be an insult.
It looks kind of like an insult to me, but maybe
It's just, I think it's like their way of categorizing like very overhyped things that we did when we were like the cool generation.
yeah, it sounds sad. It says here
Ugg
that it's
boots, chuggy.
yeah, exactly. It says it's the opposite of trendy. It's no longer in style, and it's the word you never knew you needed. Which I am proud at least that I'm not a person that says girl boss or live laugh love without the lemon part in it. So at least I can feel a little better to defend myself against it. But I cannot believe I've never heard of this. Oh my god.
Chuggy feels like if you like went to college in our generation, and like everyone was like, I feel like everyone had the scarves like that they wore with
Oh
everything and
my
all
god,
that.
the scarves, like those infinity
Like
scarves and
Tory
shit.
Burch sandals
Oh my
and
god,
yeah.
Tory Burch sandal. That I mean, this is getting a little painful to hear.
It's exactly the person you're like, if you're thinking of like people who are like, I don't know. You get it. You get it.
I completely get it. And honestly, you know what I was thinking about yesterday that now I'm like extra thinking and I'm actually don't feel guilty about thinking about it anymore is like when I have my child and they're a little bit older, I cannot wait for Gen Z to fucking experience this because they're going to be like, "What? I thought we were the cool ones." And it's like, "Welcome to our fucking club where you bully the shit out of us and then
I think
guess
it's
what?
like
The cycle continues."
it's a weird initiation into being an adult because we did the exact same shit to our parents,
Absolutely.
and they told us, "You'll know how this feels in a couple years. Don't worry, you'll know how this feels." And we were like, "Yeah."
We
And
were
then
wearing like a Tory Burch sneaker on one foot, an Ugg boot on the other, flat ironed
and now
hair.
Gen Z is doing it to us, and I'm trying to embrace it because I'm like, you know what comes around goes around. It's like it I did it there, it's gonna happen to them. It's just the circle of life. But wow, it really does hurt.
It
It
does.
really
I'm too sensitive for this shit. So sorry, my dog
anyway,
is so fucking loud.
no, you're good. Anyway, we really derailed there, but basically Ava's being a little chuggy here with her girl boss ways.
Girl boss.
Um
Okay, I'm
so
sorry. Fucking A. I swear my packages were already delivered. I was prepared for this. I thought
he watches the sunset, and when it hits a certain part of the horizon,
it's
he knows the mailman should be there.
right. It's like every 2 minutes he's like, now the mailman should be here. Now the mailman should be here.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, so she's being a girl boss. So anyway, there's
Live, laugh,
that.
love.
Doing her own seances after like a year and somehow having expertise, like whatever. The person that she was best known to materialize was this spirit called Bien Boa, who was
Sure.
apparently this 300-year-old Hindu man.
Oh, okay.
Bien Boa also had a sister that often materialized named Bergoglia.
Oh my.
Um, and pictures of them. So, researchers or investigators, excuse me, would take pictures during her seances. And anytime the pictures of them showed up, they looked, more or less like cardboard cutouts,
Oh, that's weird. I wonder
which,
why that is.
maybe I should show you a picture and then you can tell me
Can
what
you
you
please?
think.
Because people were
Hashtag
screaming.
girl boss, hashtag chug.
Okay, I just opened it. Oh no. Oh, this looks like it belongs in the back rooms. This looks like a ghost out of my night terrors. Okay, this is like when we posted the one of what's her name who did the ectoplasm?
Oh, Helen Duncan.
Helen Duncan. People were like, this is worse than anything you could have, which it is. It was so much worse than anything you could have imagined. But picture
I'm
something like that. It's literally a cardboard cutout.
I'm also loving that, like, in 1904 or whatever, they had cardboard cutouts of people. Like,
Honestly, can you imagine if you found this at like an antique store? I would buy the shit out of this to put in my
I'd be like,
house.
oh my God, it's Bienboa. I
It's
know him
Bimboa.
well.
Aw,
It's BB.
baby.
So anyway, so she's like apparently killing it. I mean, her
Mhm.
parents, her in-laws are either like really supportive of her grieving her fiance and being like, yeah, it's that's an ectoplasm spirit. You're right. Or they really believed her. And so they started inviting researchers to the
Uh-oh.
seances, including a couple people, one guy named Gabriel, another guy named Charles. Charles, we hear about throughout this entire story because he is a diehard believer in her.
Oh dear.
But so they invite notable people who, are researching this kind of stuff. Charles, in 1 month, went to 20 of her sessions and
Oh,
later published his like results or his opinion of it in the Annals of Psychical Science.
okay.
Um, and this, so he described a little bit about what the room looked like. He said that it was basically the space over the stables or the coach house, and they had to get up through stairs from the garden. The windows were covered up to keep the light out because apparently when it's dark do the spirits come out.
Sure, sure,
Interesting.
sure, sure, sure.
He also said that the setup has a cabinet made out of canvas, which I don't that
Hmm.
doesn't totally make sense to me. It
Mm-mm.
sounds more like it's like a fitting room in a mall. Like
Yeah,
it's
like a little
just like,
tent thing.
yeah, it's like a curtained off space that you can't see unless they open up the curtain to you. There's also a table nearby for the sitters, and he made sure to mention there is no trap door in the floor.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so in his findings, Charles wrote, quote, oh, this, by the way, this whole fucking story is just riddled with quotes. I'm sorry. I just couldn't, some of them are, I just could not get it
No,
up and
I
you'll
love a good
understand why.
quote.
So Charles in his findings wrote, quote, I am able to certify that no one was hidden in the room when the seance began. Moreover, as the curtains over the windows were securely nailed to the wall and there was no trapdoor nor secret panel in the walls, I am in all certitude able to affirm that no one could enter the room during the seance. So he's like, there's no way anyone could have come in or out of here. I can like, there were no tricks up her sleeve.
There was just a cardboard cutout behind her sleeve.
It was actually in the curtained off space, but we don't talk about that. So, and apparently the way that like the standard was that she would get up and go behind the curtain away from everybody to start almost like meditating or get hypnotized or whatever so that she could really focus in on the spirits, and then she would come out and all of a sudden have like this ectoplasm on
Oh,
her,
interesting.
and nobody thought like we should go in there with her. Apparently she had an aide who did go into the canvas room with her, but it was like the property's like servant or something, and so I guess nobody asked her like, are you helping back there,
Man,
like.
she should have called TMZ. Like she got the inside scoop. The employee who works there and is like, I'm a nobody, but I have like the inside
She
goss, you
should have
know.
done like a Reddit AMA,
I
like.
would love that. Yeah. Get paid good for that.
So during the seances where Charles actually witnessed the spirit of Bien Boa, he said that Bien Boa's head, quote, was covered by a sort of casque, and over this casque, a turban. And his face was very blurry compared to other faces in the room, which is so like it basically was a pixelated image compared to everybody else.
Uh-huh.
But whatever, that's just how the spirit presented itself, I guess. Apparently, he had a long nose and a thick black mustache, quote, which appears as though glued to the upper lip. But Charles said,
Sorry.
whatever. That's,
He's also
you know
like
what?
strangely 2D. Like he doesn't have any. He's not 3D. If he turns aside, he disappears. It's the strangest
It's
thing.
so weird. It's so he's got no profile. He's pixelated. I didn't know that could happen in 1905. But
He's
also
covered
his
in glue.
mustache is gonna fall off soon. But anyway, I totally, with full certitude, believe that this woman is legit. Charles also said that he had seen Bien Boa come out from the cabinet and walk around, and he's heard him breathe, heard him speak, and has felt his hand, which apparently was warm and like felt like it had bones and joints in it.
Ooh.
Charles also said that he had watched Eva materialize ectoplasm, which apparently came out of her mouth most of the time.
I don't want to know what that means. Tell me.
The rest of the time, quote, were variously her navel, breasts, and armpits.
Oh. Sorry. I don't know which is worse. I don't know. I don't know.
The idea of the breasts, interesting orifice to work with.
Sure. I mean, I guess if you're lactating, you could pull that off, maybe.
Yeah, or just like if you got like sweaty underboob, maybe.
Sure, true. If you got a big, you could just hide it, tuck it under.
Flop it over. Just flop it over.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Throw some cheesecloth in there. It'll keep you from sweating. You know,
actually, not a terrible idea.
Ava, hang on. You are a
girl
star
boss,
in the
girl boss. She's gonna start her own MLM.
She's gonna contact the spirit world and be like, "Hey, girl, haven't talked to you in a while.
Hey, girl, I haven't talked to you since I bullied you in high school, but
I know you're dead now. But like, I was wondering if you wanted to partner up." So that's breasts.
Okay.
Armpits, the most unique. A for creativity. Navel terrifies me the most because I have my own fears about one day my
unraveling.
My belly button coming undone.
Yeah, I never had that fear until you gave me the fear. So
it's a little knot on the inside. What if it gets undone? It just, your whole stomach pours out. What happens?
Probably that. Yes, Em. Your whole stomach pours out
with ectoplasm, apparently.
Oh no.
Okay. Where was I? Oh,
I don't know, but it was all really unfortunate.
Oh yes. Okay, so variously her navel, breast, and armpits as a whitish substance that creeps as if alive. You see my little dance here?
Yeah, I love it.
I feel like Hocus Pocus right here.
I hate
Bend
it.
the bones and twist the back. Okay. As a whitish substance that creeps as if alive with damp, cold protoplasmic extensions that are transformed into a hand, fingers, a head, and even into an entire figure.
What?
So it starts as this white substance, and then it slowly like branches into different limbs and becomes a figure, a person.
Ugh, okay.
And then
out
that's
of her
how
boobs.
this right out of the pit.
Strange.
Right out of the old belly button.
Oh my god.
But yeah, because I mean, if this whole argument at this time in the world was ectoplasm is just this tangible energy that pours out of human life, and spirits can use it to harness and rebuild themselves into a figure,
right,
then it would make sense that it starts as a blob and kind of branches into limbs until it's its own person.
Does make sense. Yeah, I mean, in that world,
it barely makes sense. But also, according to Charles, the stem is grayish white, so it like kind of pours out in like tubes maybe, or blots or something. Apparently it starts as grayish white with swellings like an empty snake skin.
Ew.
The mass is grayish, gelatinous, and barely visible. And little by little, it seems to split into digits at its end. It is like the embryo of a hand, ill-formed, but clear enough to enable me to say that it is the left hand seen from the back. So he was just watching
certitude.
This thing with certitude. The pixelated hand showed up. So yeah, so he's just saying that he was watching beings form out of this stuff. Mm-hmm. He also did make sure to mention the clothes she was wearing to imply that it was so tight on her that she couldn't have been hiding anything underneath it.
Okay.
He also did think it was weird, though. The only thing he had a problem with was that at the end of this, she seems to have really high energy when usually mediums after a seance would be really drained.
Right. Like when you said, oh, there were 20 in a month, I was like, don't they usually like take everything out of you when they do
Yeah.
these? Yeah.
And he thought it was apparently she would like run up and down the stairs and shit and be like really jazzed. Like she would have hyped herself up after these. And
Interesting.
he thought that was odd. But
That's the
everything
only
else,
thing that's odd. Right. Okay. Sure.
everything else checked out for him.
Okay.
So at any rate, after so many investigations, Charles still believed she was like full blown legitimate medium. Pretty much like on his deathbed, like still says that she was the real deal. But in 1906, only like a year later, she was exposed in the paper by a servant on the property named Reski.
Oh my God, is that the person who went behind the...
Oh, I don't think so, because unless one of the sources I read was wrong, the medium that, or the person that went behind, at some point, one of the people that would come in and sit in on her sittings with her was a servant that was a woman, and this one's a man.
Oh, okay. So
Maybe there were a bunch of them that she had like kind of helping her out. But in this case, in 1906, she was exposed by the paper that apparently during like a public town hall meeting, this servant named Areski said that Eva had been paying him to go into the seances via an actual trap door that apparently Charles totally neglected to see. And he would be dressed as BM Boa. So
no.
I guess there were times where she like, maybe when he left or wasn't working there anymore, then all of a sudden like she just like had to like get a cardboard cutout.
Yeah, it's just like a little replacement figure. Yeah.
But yeah, so apparently there were different versions of BM Boa at different times. I'm trying to see if I have a picture of him. Oh yeah, okay. So here's BM Boa, the person. So this is Areski dressed as him.
Oh, hold on, let me zoom in.
Which, by the way, looks like the cardboard cutout, but with like a turban or something on his head.
And like a glued-on mustache.
Yes.
Definitely the glued-on mustache. Definitely not politically correct. I'm certain of it. With certainty.
Is that not the right word?
No, sorry. I mean, dressing someone up with a turban and saying, look.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's totally
not what
right.
you said.
The only reason I'm saying turban is because that was what Charles said in his writing. So I'm assuming.
Oh, no. Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying like what she's doing is probably not the greatest.
No.
You know,
but also I just disclaimer, I'm not trying to offend anybody. If I said it wrong and you see the picture, please let me know. So after this scandal, apparently it was like really damning in her town. And she said, okay, I'm going to go off. I'm going to move to Munich, which is far from Algeria.
Oh.
Is it far from Algeria? To me, it is.
I don't think it's, I mean, it's far. It's a different country, obviously, but let me see. I don't think it's probably as far as it sounds, but I could be very wrong.
It feels far.
I mean, it's probably pretty damn far. my Google Map says, can't find a way there. Okay, well, that's so not helpful.
Thanks, Waze.
Wow. Okay, well, you know what? I don't know. It's probably pretty goddamn far. Let's just put it that way.
It's not a walk away. Let's
no,
put it that way.
Definitely not. Probably not even a drive, not even close. I don't know.
So she, because of that scandal, she moves from Algeria to Munich. And then there are two stories here. I don't know which one is right. Different sources told me different things, but the one that I was going with up until the end when I found new information was that she went to Munich and changed her name herself to Eva Carrière or Eva C.
Okay.
But I also heard later that someone I haven't mentioned yet named Albert, he ended up writing a book about everything and he changed her name for her protection.
To Eva or to something different?
To Eva. So I don't know all I know is when she moved to Munich, I think she started referring to herself as Eva C. That's what I was riding on. And then I saw that he maybe actually wrote a book many years later and called her Eva C in the book. So maybe she never changed her name. I'm not too sure.
Maybe he just changed it and it stuck. So like
either she changed it when she moved to Munich or what's that?
Sorry, here's Algeria, and then Munich is here.
Oh, it's surprisingly not as far.
Yeah, you could take a boat probably across the Mediterranean here and then
But
drive
yeah,
there.
so either she changed it herself, or then many years after her entire career, an author changed
It
it
just
to
got
protect her name.
switched, right? Okay.
But after like 100 years, it's kind of lost in translation apparently. But I was operating under that she now goes by Eva C. While she was in Munich, she started working with another spiritualist who was also in my escape room, called Stanislawa P.
Okay.
And this is just her making like a little cameo in here. I actually don't talk about her too much in this, so maybe I'll talk about her one day. But Stanislawa P apparently started a mediumship photography piece with her where they were taking pictures of each other, like producing ectoplasm.
Oh, that's fun.
That's a fun little game for mediums to play.
Yeah.
They hosted their own seances, and when ectoplasm would come out, they would like take little pictures together. Also, while she was hanging out with Stanislawa P all the time, she ended up running into a huge fan of hers.
Uh-oh.
So Eva's biggest fan showed up, and her name was Juliette Bisson.
Ooh.
And she was apparently married to a playwright, Alexander Bisson, who I don't know that name, but maybe people in the playwright world do. But so Juliette was her biggest fan, found her in Munich and said, like, you've got to move to Paris. I live in Paris. It would be so fun to work with you. We could hold seances at my house.
Thought you were going to say we could hold hands. I was like, this girl needs to cool it, but
she's there. That's probably what's happening.
Oh, so that is kind of what she wink wink. We could hold seances.
We could
wink,
hold
wink,
seances
at
and
my house.
Hold feet under the seance table.
Ew.
The toes one, the thing that I always send
Em keeps sending me these pictures of toes intertwining. I don't know why. I hate it. Probably that's why. Yeah, I hate it. I hate it more
Allison
than anything.
Allison also hates it, and so anytime I see it online, I just send it to somebody. And I'm
how do you so often see it online?
I follow the wrong people, or maybe the right people. I don't know.
No,
but
it's certifiably the wrong people.
I just send it to people and I'm like, let me know when you're ready to do this with me. And then everyone says no. But honestly, if someone said yes, I don't think I do.
I think the first time you sent it, I did say yes. And you were like, you're not supposed to say yes. Oh no, I said only if I can do that weird toe click thing on the ground.
Oh yes, you said that, and I said fuck you. Okay. Okay, so yes, you were picking up on the queer vibes here. So
yes.
So Juliette was like, you've got to move to Paris. That's where I live. You could hold seances at my house. And whether or not there was some queer tension, although I bet there was, Eva like immediately moved to Paris. Romantic. And started living in Juliette's house with her husband.
Oh boy, this is a novel in the making.
We never hear about the husband again, so he was probably just like downstairs on the Barca Lounger the whole time. It's like, why haven't I heard from either of them?
Like lately? Watching the History Channel, out of the
loop. So Juliette agreed that like, oh, I'll be your assistant and I'll write notes on seances and we can document, your success and you can just work from here. Mm-hmm. So one of her reports, this is from Juliette's journal. Oh, Deirdre is calling me.
Oh my God, she heard about the toe thing.
She was like, why haven't you talked to me about this? I'd do it.
I assumed you immediately said it to her too.
Oh, I can finally say now. So the reason Deirdre's calling me, because so now that I am fully vaccinated, by the way.
Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about this.
The baby took a little bit of the thunder, but that's okay. That's expected. The baby.
Oops.
I'm fully vaccinated now. And so I'm surprising my mom for Mother's Day weekend, which is when this comes out. So I can officially now announce it because by the time it comes out, the surprise has already happened.
She's going to be so excited to see you.
She hasn't seen me. She told me recently, because I'm about to turn 29. She's like, I haven't seen you since you were 27. And I went,
that's whoa, really weird.
Quarantine problems. And so anyway, I haven't seen her since 2 Christmases ago now.
Wow.
And so my stepdad was like, oh, like, do you plan on surprising her anytime soon? And I went, oh my God, like Mother's Day is the weekend that I'm like officially like free of this household. Free. And so anyway, Deirdre's picking me up from the not the hospital. Whoa.
I was like, uh-oh.
Freudian slip when it's kind of a pandemic. Sorry.
I know.
But you're just picking me up and we're having like a sleepover the night before so we get to like hang out, and then
That's
the next
so
morning I'm gonna surprise my mom.
cute.
So and then after that I'm
Oh.
gonna be in Boston. So I'm
Oh shit.
taking the rounds. I'm gonna spend a
Man,
week at home and then I'm gonna spend a few days in Boston.
I'm so jelly.
Yeah.
When are
So
you
it's
coming to Cincinnati?
uh I don't have I promise you, if you think I'm surprising you, I do not have
I know,
a
but I keep trying.
legitimate
I
plan.
listen. I'm
I
waiting.
want to wait. I want to wait till closer to the baby.
Okay. I'll
So
be waiting here.
that's my legitimate answer. But if you get bored and
I'm
just want to
always
hang out,
bored. We'll call it a
no, I
work.
can't do it. I was thinking for a second. I was like, maybe I could go from
We'll
Boston
call
to
it a work
Cincinnati.
trip.
No, I can't do that. I really did think for a second, like I could cancel one of my flights and just go from Boston to Cincinnati and then hang out with you. But no.
We'll
Okay.
talk about it
Yikes.
later. No,
Yikes. Oh,
I'm putting
yikes.
too much pressure on
My
you.
brain's doing the Zach Bagans thing. Okay.
Oh.
But anyway, happy Mother's Day, Mom. So where were we? It's getting gay. Oh yeah. Okay. So
The good part.
so Juliet, this is a report from her journal, since she was the one now taking notes of all of Ava's seances. So this is from 1911, and Juliet wrote this after at nighttime she was hypnotizing Eva, or doing something where they were like, I guess they did some sort of meditation to like help her get in the zone to talk to spirits. And so this was what happened after that. Quote, I had hardly approached her. Just to give you context too, this is like one of the first times I think Juliet, I don't know if it's one of the first times, but this is just an example of Juliet's experience with the ectoplasm.
Okay.
Quote, I had hardly approached her when she threw herself on one side, and with her mouth open and with that breathing that you're familiar with, I saw descending from her left shoulder masses of material which
Ew.
fell over her chest down onto her right side. I then asked that the mass should come to me. Almost immediately after I had uttered this, a large packet, I think she means like a large pocket of it or something, was thrown on my head from behind. So she's
from behind. Oh no.
She's looking at Ava and seeing it like come out of her chest or something, and it apparently like snuck up behind her and landed on her head.
Oh, God forbid.
It glided over my face and eyes,
Ugh.
moving independently like an animal with moist skin.
Okay.
The living material glided along down my back, hanging over from one shoulder to the other, and entirely enveloped me. The whole mass dissolved quite suddenly and disappeared while I still held the medium's hand. After a pause of several minutes, Eva said to me, "It will now come into your hand." And she then took my right arm with both her hands, and in this position, I stretched forward my right hand. Immediately afterwards, I felt in the hollow of my hand something resembling a pigeon's egg.
Sure, you know how it is when you're holding a pigeon egg.
This egg feels pigeon. However, it was connected with Eva's left shoulder by a broad band of substance, and the material is ash gray and is traversed by threads like a delicate skin.
What is happening here?
Apparently, that's a very well-written description of this ectoplasm. So, a year later, they're still living together and doing these sessions together, and Juliet's husband dies. Oh no. And then Eva stays with Juliet, and they continue their seances.
Continue holding feet.
Holding feet, probably holding more. And Juliet's friend shows up, and his name is Albert von Schrenknotzing.
Sure.
I'm gonna call him Big Al. And he was an investigator or a researcher, and he was like, I gotta know more about, Eva. I'm hearing all of this, like I'm hearing all these things that you're telling me about this ectoplasm. I gotta check it out. And so he agrees. I'm also going to start taking notes and photos of these seances, and we can build like quite a nice little file. So Albert, who is the one that later wrote the book and called her Eva in it, so I don't know where.
Okay, got it.
All I know is after her time in Algeria, at some point she got called Eva. So
okay.
So Albert started investigating her, and he had already had some experience because he had investigated other well-known mediums. He also, fun fact, was a fellow student of Sigmund Freud's, and he, according to the Guinness World Records, is the first forensic psychologist.
Oh my God.
Is that like not the coolest thing?
That is the cool. Big Al?
Big Al.
Oh my God. Who would have thought?
Just not me. Big Al, maybe. So he started investigating Eva. He still also, much like Charles, swears that she's legit. Juliet swore that she was legit. Then again, Juliet had probable queer bias. And also maybe Albert was like, if there was something going on, maybe Albert was in on it. I don't totally know. Maybe Albert, because they were friends, defended her, or I don't know. But he always said that Eva was legit. So when he would do tests and experiments and research on her, apparently he would have Eva do a strip search before seances, which yikes, but also I get that they're trying to like make sure she's not hiding anything.
Yeah, iffy, but
in 1908 or whatever, like who knows what was considered normal.
Take your clothes off. Okay.
So did a strip search before the seances and then put her in tight clothing to make sure she didn't hide anything in her sleeves or her pant legs. And then he had her drink blueberry syrup. So that way, if she planned on regurgitating anything, it would be stained.
I mean, not a terrible idea.
It's new. It's a new one.
It's unique. Yeah.
And then after the seance, he would give her, I think, like some sort of throw up medicine, like vomit inducing medicine. So that way, whatever she threw up, you could see, like, was there ever anything in her system?
That's
and
a
was
horrible.
It stained blue?
That's horrible. So every time you have to chug blueberry syrup and then induce vomiting to
yeah,
that's awful.
Oh well. Apparently that was her life. She chose to be involved in this because he ended up studying her for like years. I think he was like a big researcher for her, and apparently that was his like standard practice. So she was like, all right, hit me with the epicac.
All right, Big Al. The epicac. I was trying to come up with the word for it. Yeah, that's it.
She really must have like been traumatized by blueberry syrup after that. She must have just wanted to throw up every time
you could never even
looked at blueberry syrup
think
after
about
that.
it. Yeah, repulsive.
So Albert later used these notes to write his book called Phenomena of Materialization. And one entry is from the year that they started working together. And this was like one of his first experiments with her, I guess.
Okay.
After about 25 minutes, we saw against the dark background the distinct shape of a white half mask of a face near the medium's head with two black eye holes. So this is his first time seeing like ectoplasm or a figure, I guess. When the curtain opened again, the male face was behind the medium against the wall. The medium whimpered and moaned as if in pain, and there followed some unusually deep tones with a convulsive stretching of the whole body. Ugh. Suddenly, she moved as if in violent pain, and then he said it was like akin to like maybe like a surgical operation type of pain. Ooh. And made lively defensive movements as if replying to a strange power intruding upon her. This incident obliged Juliet to enter the cabinet and look after Eva. So this is implying that maybe Juliet is the new aid helping her or something. Or he's not implying it. I'm fucking implying it.
Yeah, like, we're inferring it. Yeah.
Yes. Slowly, Eva grew calmer, but the sitting could not be connoted. Connoted?
Yeah, like connotation, like connoted.
Oh, okay. And then he ends it with Eva vomited some blood.
Oh no! Oh, ow!
So apparently she like just goes into like this like really painful, jerky movements, which then require Juliet to go take care of her in the cabinet. So a lot of people can be like, wow, that pretty much explains how she's getting help.
Yeah.
So the entries from this book led to Ava C. becoming one of the best known spiritualists of her time. And one of the many things that she was known for, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, but we're going to really kick it into high gear now. She was not only known for producing ectoplasm from her mouth, but from all orifices. And when I say all,
I know. I
knew
we were going there. I knew it.
So here are two letters.
Oh God.
From Juliet to Albert. And I used 2 because like one wasn't enough. Wasn't enough trauma. And this is where we officially call her Eva because I cannot process anything else.
Eva is fully divorced from this story from now on. Our Eva.
Eva has decompartmentalized, or has completely compartmentalized, is maybe not even editing this episode anymore. Okay. A letter from Juliet to Albert about one of the seances that he apparently missed. On my expressing a wish, what wish was this, by the way? The medium parted her thighs.
Ooh.
And I saw that material assumed a curious shape resembling an orchid, which makes me laugh because Georgia O'Keeffe was right the whole time.
First of all, there's that. Second of all, so Georgia O'Keeffe's clearly plagiarizing. But also, so who's writing this letter? I thought it was Ava writing it.
This is Juliet writing to Albert about since they're both taking notes on her seances. I guess he didn't make this one, so she was updating him. I don't know.
This is a personal in their bedroom experience, it sounds like.
Yeah, or maybe all 3 of them were like, I'm not like no shade to poly people, but maybe they were all together. Yeah, and I never saw any like notes of that, but when I was doing this research, it all felt like the 3 of them were kind of,
they seem very close
together. Yeah, and I felt like there were some legitimate reasons that they seemed like they were all romantically involved, and it would also make sense why both of them were such staunch defenders of her, maybe,
right?
Or that they were maybe both helping her look really good for her career. Or maybe
he was just like in love with her but couldn't have her. You never know.
I don't know. It could be a million reasons, but I definitely, just like how you kind of got some like queer vibes immediately about Juliet, I got some like throuple vibes the entire time I was doing this research. So shout out to thruples, I guess. Okay.
I'm sorry, this is the representation you get.
This is not what you deserve. This is not what you deserve. So anyway, in that case, it also makes me feel weird that they're like both writing about the third person that's not a part of this letter.
Yeah, true point. Good point.
Yikes. Okay, so so the medium part of her thighs, and I saw the material assumed a curious shape resembling an orchid. Eva, yikes, then said, "Wait, we will try to facilitate the passage."
Oh.
What was that sound?
I don't know. I just hate that you already failed at your Eva compartmentalizing.
I'm
sorry,
so
that noise was new. I think that was my future baby speaking through me. Like, I don't want to live in this life. What are you doing? I don't know. I don't want to be a part of this.
I'm not even here yet and I don't want it. Take me back. Okay. Okay. It gets worse. Where were we? Okay.
I don't know.
So Ava then said, "Wait, we will facilitate the passage of said orchid-shaped ectoplasm from between my thighs." She rose, mounted on the chair, and sat down on one of the armrests with her feet touching the seat.
Okay.
AKA really propping herself up to be matched at eye level. Before my eyes, and with the curtain opened, a large spherical mass, about 8 inches in diameter.
That's
in
like
diameter.
Wait, hang on.
Oh my God. Wait, this is a birth. Hang on.
I was going to say, that sounds like a full-on childbirth experience, but like...
She's literally almost completely dilated. Okay.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And then, before my eyes and with the curtain opened, a large spherical mass about 8 inches in diameter emerged from the vagina. I've never had to have the word vagina in my notes here before, but here we are.
Fun times.
Quickly placed itself on her left thigh while she crossed her legs. So she literally pushed this thing at her and then it just flops onto her
here
thigh.
I am.
Quote, I distinctly recognized in the mass a still unfinished face whose eyes looked at me.
Wait. So this thing is like a bowling ball with a face. It just comes on out, rolls on out.
It's one of those like eyes that are also glued on. It's like a 2-dimensional pixelated bowling ball face.
Oh
no. Here's the other letter, also from Juliet to Albert. Yesterday I hypnotized Eva as usual, and she unexpectedly began to produce phenomena. As soon as they began, Eva allowed me to undress her completely. I then saw a thick thread emerged from her genitals.
Your face.
It changed its place and disappeared into the navel depression.
Oh, ew. So like an umbilical cord.
Yeah, more material emerged from, second time, the vagina, and with a sinuous serpentine motion of its own, it crept up the girl's body, giving the impression as if it were about to rise in the air.
What is happening?
Finally, it ascended to her head, entered Ava's mouth, and disappeared. So homie just ate her own like genital ectoplasm.
What? What the fuck is going on?
Maybe I should have read all that as Zach Bagans.
No, thank you. Nobody needs.
We want answers.
My name is Zach Bagans.
Okay. So their seances were very X-rated, if you could not tell. At least to me, I know as the prude of every single one of my social circles, I would have been uncomfortable at the seance.
You are uncomfortable right now, so yeah, I think so.
So sweaty, it's insane right now. Okay,
oh my god, careful what might come out of those pits. You never know.
So
so
the seances
horrifying.
were interesting, of a maybe potential sexual nature. And also, to be clear, both of those experiences, the letters I just told you, one reason that they are very queer coded is because there was no mention of anybody else sitting in at the seance. It was just the two of them playing with a crotch.
I mean, listen, it sounds like a very spicy relationship. Like, it's not boring.
It was 100% is not boring. But also apparently their seances were very ooh la la. So Ava apparently would do this like sexy dance to get the spirits stirred up or something. And then Juliet and Albert before seances would both examine her vagina for any ectoplasm materials. So that's the other thing where I feel like this is together. Both of them would examine her. So I'm really hoping they're a throuple at this point, and he's just not like a fucking creepy ass researcher.
Yeah, that would be kind of the line that we're reaching.
He's like a dude involving himself in some very queer play.
Like, this is scientific. Let me look. Yeah.
So fingers crossed it's a throuple. According to one source, this is a quote. This is Kalush and Sloman. They said, I know. They said, quote, Juliet would, during the course of the pre-seance examination, how is there a fourth time, would introduce her finger into Ava's vagina to ensure no ectoplasm had been loaded there before to fool the investigators. The whole procedure was so enjoyable for Ava that she often stripped nude by the end of the seance and demanded another full-on exam.
Okay, come on, everybody. Are we seriously pretending that this is a fucking scientific research paper?
This is those fucking straight historians who are like, oh, isn't it wonderful that they're best friends and never got married and lived in a house forever together?
And would touch each other's private parts for science. Like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
My vanilla little brain is just breaking. I'm so sorry.
I'm over here going, I hope somebody's written a novel, because I am like, I want to know more about this paranormal erotica. I'm into it.
I mean, like, to be clear, I feel like a lot of people are going to read me the wrong way and think that like I'm like against any of like this. I'm not against any queer, obviously. I just have such a weird thing about like, to me, that's like such private stuff, and like to be reading this out loud to the masses. I'm sorry. It's just really uncomfortable for me.
I love it. I could just watch you sweat, and
I'm literally blowing on my pressure points to like cool off the sweat.
Oh my god, you poor thing! You're gonna have nightmares.
Okay, so
meanwhile, I'm like, somebody write some fan fiction. This sounds like fun.
So allegedly, Ava would also run around the seance room naked during seances with sitters and do sexual things with the audience.
Oh my god. Well, this is X-ray. Yeah, this is becoming quite an experience.
It's teetering on like some weird private club.
This is like red light district stuff. Yeah.
And there are pictures apparently of So here's my favorite
Of
thing.
what? Of what?
I tried to find the actual pictures and I just couldn't find anyone that was like juicy enough. But there are records that there are several pictures of um, Ava in the middle of like producing ectoplasm that were almost like smutty pictures, like meant to be sexual.
Oh.
So this is like Zach Bagans all the way.
I
Like
mean,
this is just like exactly his
honestly,
Playboy.
that's probably why you can't find them, because he has the originals in his like
He would
basement.
fucking buy them.
He would,
fucking
and
buy them.
they're hanging in his bedroom or somewhere, and he's not going to share them.
Well, apparently there were pictures. Some of the examples I heard of were that there was ectoplasm, like literally coming out of her breasts. There were also like phallic shaped ectoplasm in a picture with her, and she like her posing in very, you know, suggestible
Listen,
ways.
she found a niche.
She did.
Clearly.
I mean, what are the odds that this is where I jump in and say like she was huge for her time and she was clearly fraudulent, and yet every man was like, oh no, she's the real deal.
Good point.
Like, I mean, talk about a girl boss, am I right? Like,
girl boss.
he was like, if they are paying attention to all the sexy stuff, then they will either intentionally ignore the obvious fraud, or they will maybe just be so stupid that they're paying attention to something else they don't even notice the obvious.
They're distracted.
Fraud.
Yeah, they want it to be real.
Yeah, but there were so many people who defended her, and still to this day until they died.
Probably just
like,
wanted the shows to go on.
exactly. They were like, we'll give you money, like we don't give a shit about the ectoplasm.
Yeah.
So in case people could not gather yet, many people think Julia and Eva were in a sexual relationship together, and they also were intentionally using their business to work up a male audience to keep up their notoriety, and that's how they made the big bucks.
Listen, I don't even want to say girl boss anymore because it sounds so demeaning. Like, it sounds like real entrepreneurial stuff here.
Right here. Yeah, this is an MBA in the works.
Yeah.
So Albert also, again, because he was taking pictures during a lot of this, he has a lot of pictures of these ectoplasm productions, but a lot of critics said that the faces that would come out of this ectoplasm, much like earlier in her career, they looked like cardboard cutouts. Some of them looked like magazine cutouts.
From Penthouse and Playboy.
Why does BB all of a sudden have like a nipple on his forehead? What's going on?
BB, no.
So also Harry Price, of course, chimed in. He said that the pictures that he saw of these seances looked completely fake. The ectoplasm figures looked like they were made out of cardboard. And he said that from what he had read of Albert's experiments, the tests were not properly controlled, and there were a lot of opportunities for Eva to have been like fucking around and having tricks up her sleeve. Obviously, whatever he says, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle has to have a different opinion, and so he believed that Ava was 100% legit. He says that Houdini also believed this, although Houdini says no, that was not.
I was gonna say somehow I doubt that.
They have such a frenemy relationship where like who even knows who's right anymore, but apparently Houdini was like staunchly against it, which I would believe based on his history with mediums. But he even said that her ectoplasm like gimmick was similar to the magician's trick called the Hindi needle. Fun fact.
Oh.
So he says like, no, she was a fucking fraud, as all mediums are. But Sir Doyle was like, that's not true. I have letters he wrote me where he was impressed. And it's like, okay, well then bring the receipts.
Well, he was
Sir
probably
Doyle.
impressed for other reasons.
Amen.
You know what I mean? Like you could be impressed, but also be like, but it's also not real. But also interesting, real quick about, you said it's called a Hindi needle. Because like, wasn't BB a 300-year-old Hindu man? Maybe she had some like
connection.
Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting. Anyway, I mean that's duly noted. But at any rate, most researchers, so Harry Price and Houdini were on the same page. Sir Doyle believed that she was legit. At any rate, most researchers claimed that Albert's experiments were unscientific, they were not properly controlled, and they needed to be redone. As well as other people who had researched her in the past. They just said that nothing had been properly controlled. And people didn't trust, like I said, they didn't trust his photos because he said all of the ectoplasm figures had like a very two-dimensional appearance. But his argument for why the images looked so weird and not of our world is because Ava's figures start in her mind and she has to manifest them. And so however she's seeing them is the way that they appear. In which case I'd be like, okay, girl, then like manifest a 3D person.
Yeah, like what are you doing? Cardboard? That doesn't even seem like something, like you said, that should even exist by this point. Cardboard figures.
I know.
Weird.
And
Weird.
also people were skeptical about why they couldn't touch the ectoplasm figures during her seances. And Albert would be like, oh, well, because if you touch them, you might get hurt. You might have like a dizzy spell or something. So you can't touch them. Otherwise you'll get sick. Also, Albert defended Juliet from critics because a lot of people were like, oh, she's clearly the aide helping her in the little canvas cabinet. Albert said, oh, that's not true because we always do exams on her, we always do exams on both of them, apparently. So it wasn't just Ava getting this weird exam.
Sorry. So now he's, oh my God.
Apparently everyone was getting some action.
Was Albert or was it just these two ladies?
Excellent question. I don't know. And
I
again,
don't want to know actually. Why am I even asking?
I say all of this again, really hoping like that he's telling the truth.
This is all consensual.
Everything was consensual. We're under the impression this was all consensual.
Dear
because also
Lord, let's hope.
It happened a million times, and it sounds like they were all having not the worst time.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like at least Ava's having fun.
Apparently, she was, according to some sources, she was like running around asking for seconds. So I don't know.
Let that speak for itself, I guess.
So he also said, so like, well, Juliet, we would examine her also before and after sittings, and she wasn't always at the sittings. And so if she wasn't there, who was aiding Ava in these, stunts?
Fair point.
Even still, investigators didn't officially deem Ava a fraud because there was no logical way that her conjuring this much ectoplasm could have gone that unnoticed by so many observers. Like, people were just like, if she's doing, like, someone at this point should have, that was their whole excuse. Someone at this point should have noticed something and no one's noticing. But then the argument is like, well, they were all watching her naked body get all
JJ, yeah.
Yeah. Like, of course no one was noticing.
Like, think about if like Chris Angel, sorry, Chris Angel, to put you in this position, but think about like if Chris Angel like whipped it out, like he would get he already gets away with anything.
And
on
the other hand, he's literally physically like altering the magic trick,
like,
and,
pulling a visible string, right? Like, I mean, come on. Ultimate distraction.
But yeah, so the main argument is like, well, someone would have noticed, and the other argument is like everyone was noticing something else much more important.
Distracted.
So I'm almost done. Sorry, I know this is a long one.
No, I'm enjoying. I just keep trying to. I keep having to mute myself because I'm eating this fucking piece of.
It's okay. When it's your turn, I'm eating food too. So.
Oh, good.
So in 1916, 1917, it's kind of I don't totally know the official number, but from 1916-ish to 1918, there was a new guy on the scene who was like, I'm going to investigate Ava. I guess Albert, I think he got shipped off to World War I or something. I read that on one source. I don't know if that's legitimate, but Albert is like fucking gone.
Bummer.
So in 1916 and 1918, this new guy named Gustav, he was really interested in Ava. And so he was going to replicate all of Albert's stuff, all of Albert's experiments, or update them, since everyone said that they need to be redone anyway. So he was doing experiments with Ava, and there were at different times a combination of 150 scientists or observers at her sitting. So he was doing these with full-blown witnesses. And he was doing these tests over 18 months with Juliet by his side. So they, he was getting help. And the results ended up being a part of this conference in France called, I'm assuming it's the Physiology of the Supernatural. It's in French, so I'm guessing that it's something like that.
I'll take it.
Okay. Here's an excerpt from his notes about the first time he saw the ectoplasm come out of her fingers and spread to her hands. I will say this picture is kind of badass. I'm sure it's obviously a gimmick after everything else we've seen, but I mean, does that not look badass to you? That's some like Scarlet Witch shit,
Ooh.
right?
Oh yeah.
But then like just to like remind you, like this is like what some of the goddamn ectoplasm faces look like.
Let's see. Let's see what you. Oh wait, hold on, I lost it.
Just like so we're
Uh,
both clear, like it, like some pictures look really cool and some of them look really bad.
yeah. Yeah, this one, the one you sent earlier, looks kind of like she's holding an electric, like a bolt of lightning in her
Literally,
hands.
she looks like, and realistically, maybe it was just like a metal rod or something, and they had flash on. Like, who knows
Honestly,
what it
yeah, because
really
that
was?
that balding man to the left, his head kind of looks similar to that
Uh
bolt of lightning, so it really could just be a reflection.
huh. But so anyway, so the first time that Gustav saw this ectoplasm coming out of her hands, this is what he said: the ectoplasmic mass mounted on Eva's chest up to her mouth, into which it disappeared. 5 minutes wait. And when they saw a mass of white substance exude from her nose and eyes,
Ugh.
it descended down to her knees and thickening as it went. Like, and not like dropping like gravity, but like apparently it's live and floating all the way down to her
Ah.
knees. Thickening as it went, giving the impression of skin. After a short time, the skin vanished instantly, and the substance then reappeared between her hands, and in it was a very small hand. So like something was forming out of this. After a short time, but the phenomenon ceased almost at once. So the hand was being created and then it disappeared because the medium was exhausted. Resorption into the fingers was instantaneous. So it all went back into her hands, just like how it started coming out. Gustav also did say, though, about his own experiments, quote, the usual precautions were rigorously observed during the seances in my laboratory. I do not merely say it. There was no trickery. I say this with no possibility of trickery. Further, I cannot repeat it too often. Nearly always the materializations took place under my own eyes, and I have observed the genesis and their whole development. So he is on board just like every other confused
Oh my
person.
gosh.
And he's like, this person is legit. Now, important for later, and by later I mean like pretty soon, he becomes the director later of the IMI, which is the International Institute of Metaphysics. I'm guessing it's also in French, so I'm trying to do the English translation on the fly. But so he becomes the director of that. Okay. So now I know everyone's been wondering, where's the SPR? What are they doing about this? So in 1920, the Society of Psychical Research investigated Eva, and their main theory was that she was just regurgitating this stuff and it was coming out, and maybe she had it on strings, but there was no solid proof. And fun fact, one of the people on this investigative team was Eric Dingwall, who was another frenemy of Harry Houdini, who like fucking roasted him after he died.
Yeah, I remember that. I feel like.
So apparently the SPR went to 40 of her seances, and at only half of them did ectoplasm actually appear, which they thought was weird. But their original statement was, quote, no amount of fraud could explain the certain phenomena that people say they have observed. Comparative studies show that Eva C is not the only medium producing these manifestations. Accounts of the phenomena with other mediums are remarkably similar to those occurring with her, and the appearance of this leads one to suppose that the mediumistic phenomena does occur in Eva's presence. So they were like, maybe this is legit. That was their original statement. They're like, we have no proof to claim her as guilty.
Sure.
We're not saying it's legit, but like we have no
innocent
proof
until
otherwise.
proven guilty, and we don't have enough evidence.
Exactly. And like enough of the things we're hearing about her sound similar to the other things we're investigating.
Sure.
But like I said, fans of her defended her nonstop, including Charles from the very beginning, one of the first people who researched her when she was living with her in-laws.
Charles.
And he got real fired up about the SPR investigating her and said, the SPR admit that the only possible trickery is regurgitation, but what is meant by that? How can masses of mobile substance organized as hands, faces, and drawings be made to emerge from the esophagus or the stomach? The members of the SPR, when they fail to understand something, say it's, quote, difficult to understand, and that's where they leave it. So he was like, you have no fucking proof. Like, if it's just regurgitation, that's all you can come up with. Explain these literal cardboard cutouts that you claim exist. And so they ended up the SPR report ended up being controversial. Like up until the 80s, there were still people like literally like 60 years later coming out being like, Eva could have been legit. Eva could have not been legit. I don't know how that's possible, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1922, this was the final investigation done on Eva. And it was, they sat in on 15 seances of hers and nothing happened at 13 of them.
Oh.
And so the SPR was like, okay, you're a fraud. Like, how is it that like,
Yeah.
you're not doing anything at any of your sittings? Although you could argue like, well, those were moments where spirits didn't come
Like if
forward.
she's
and
in
there's nothing
control
you
of
can
it,
do
why
about it.
wouldn't she be doing it? Right.
Exactly. So the SPR said that after they investigated and like looked at it, I guess under a microscope or something, they said that the ectoplasm was made with chewed paper and magazine cutouts. And one of my favorite things is that there are like documents or there are letters from Juliet talking about like when she would hypnotize Ava, there were like literal cords that she would see. Like she would see wires. Like and
Oh,
she wrote about them. So she was admitting that there are wires, but she would say that they were like strings produced out of ectoplasm.
I see. Okay.
So she's like straight up saying like there's fucking wires. And but she was like
But they're
in a completely different mindset apparently.
ghostly wires.
Yep. And even with that, they still believed that Eva was legit. So Juliet ended up dying in 1956, and Eva, is assumingly, they think she died in the 40s. I think 1943 is the year we've all landed on, but I don't know if that's official or not. But even after she died, in the 1950s, there was this one guy named Donald West who said that Ava's ectoplasm figures were definitely fake and made from magazines, just like how the SPR had said back in the 20s. And the one of the reasons that he knew this is because he could look at the pictures and literally see fold marks and the names of magazines on the faces. So
No.
there's one French magazine called, I think, La Miroir or whatever, Miroir. And one of the faces that is on one of these pictures, one of the faces that formed out of Evo's ectoplasm literally says the name of the magazine on it.
No, come on.
This was also called out back in like 1913 by one newspaper, and nobody did anything about it. Nobody like remembered that, I guess. Like
Oh my goodness.
nobody used that as evidence. But back in 1913, people were like, yeah, she's like making these faces. Like, how did you not pick up on that? The Encyclopedia of the Paranormal apparently says that not only was she using faces from magazines, but Ava was intentionally, I don't know if intentionally is the right word, but seemingly intentionally was using like notable people as like she was trying to like almost feature them as the ectoplasm faces that came out. So like Woodrow Wilson, apparently the king of Bulgaria. I don't know why Zach Bagans didn't make the list.
Hey.
But apparently these faces were of notable people from magazines, and she was almost trying to like feature them as her ectoplasm people.
That is bizarro.
And the nail in the coffin was in the same year that in the 50s when Donald West said, like, I mean, look at this face, it has a magazine name on it. Another person in the SPR named Rudolph Lambert, he reported that he met with a guy named Eugene, and Eugene had recently taken over, I guess, Gustav from earlier, who like was a diehard and became the director of the IMI. He died, and the person who took over was Eugene. And so Eugene had just taken his place, and I guess was going through Gustav's old files and met up with an SPR member, this Rudolph guy. So Rudolph and Eugene get together, and Eugene is like, look at this stuff that I found from when Gustav had my job.
Yeah.
And he found all of these pictures that never got published. And they had never gone public intentionally because the pictures were of the ectoplasm faces, and they were clearly connected to wires on Eva's hair.
Oh my gosh.
And it seems that in the early, when at the time when Gustav was the director of it, and maybe people before him, it was when spiritualism was at its height. And so it was understood that early members of the IMI knew about the photos, all of them. But they didn't want to debunk Eva because they didn't want other people leaving spiritualism. And so they didn't want it to get out
Oh, come
and ruin the
on.
movement. So they agreed to keep it a secret. And that means the entire time that Gustav was like up and down swearing that Eva was genuine, he knew that there were these pictures that proved that she was using
That's so
wires.
shady. And honestly, that harms us, in my opinion, harms the spiritualist movement the most because it's like, well, if we know that some people are
You've got to
fully
debunk someone.
right, like if you're fully covering for someone and then we find out later, like you knew all along, like how are you supposed to believe any of it at that point?
Exactly. So anyway,
Disappointing.
unfortunately that's the ending to it, but that is the story of
That is probably
Eva C.
one of the wild. Like I don't think I could have, even when you said it's gonna get weird, I don't think I really fully understood what that meant.
I've never had to say vagina ever before this. And this time in my notes, I had to say it 4 times.
How does that feel?
It's weird because this is a paranormal show. So
Yeah,
I never
yeah.
thought that would have to be the thing, but okay.
You
Here we
wouldn't
go.
think so, huh? But always
No.
something new.
And I'm again, for the record, I have no problem saying the correct words for body parts. It's just, I did not know I would have to do that. And it just shocked me. That's
Yeah,
all.
it's one thing to be on a platform speaking to lots of people that's already unnerving and slightly scary, and then to kind of throw in some stuff you don't usually talk about is
I was just like, oh, okay. Apparently we're
okay.
talking a lot
We're
about sexual activity today.
doing the Vagina Monologues 2.0.
This was definitely the paranormal version of the
I
Vagina
love
Monologues.
that. Oh, that's fun.
Anyway, I'm so sorry that was long, but whatever.
No, I talked for 69 minutes. Why did I pick 69? I'm clearly regressing.
Vagina monologues.
I talked for 6 hours about my pregnancy, so I think it's fair that you can talk as much as you want.
In some ways, we both talked about vaginas today.
That's right.
We talked about the human body, which is
We
beautiful.
sure did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, as somebody who has a problem with sweating throughout my whole life, as Em and everybody else knows, I've always been really worried that I stink. Okay, I've been worried about it, but now I don't have to be worried about it because I have Native on my sink and in my car and in my purse, and I love them so much. And I also want to throw in before we even get to the talking points that the other day I was looking for a pregnancy-safe sunscreen and I couldn't figure out which one. I had nothing at my house. Native appeared on my doorstep. SPF 30 sunscreen, face and body, and it's perfectly fine and clean for pregnancy, and I've been using it every day.
The end. A Native cares about the products you put on your body. They're about stopping the stink the right way. And that is the Native difference. First of all, I love that they have gone beyond just deodorant and they're like, people still stink. Let's give them every type of ointment, every type of thing they can throw on themselves. And the sunscreen smells just as good as the deodorant.
It does. And
it's
they have
amazing.
It is. And they have unscented, which I love. And I'm also going to try the coconut and pineapple next during summertime when it's kind of
That's the one that I have.
Oh, I don't have that one yet. Okay, I'm going to try
It is C'est magnifique.
Oh, sounds good.
Stay fresh, stay clean with Native by going to nativedeo.com/drink or use promo code DRINK at checkout and get 20% off your first order.
That's nativedeo.com/drink or use promo code DRINK at checkout for 20% off your first order.
Whether you're trying to take control of acne or if acne is no longer your top skin concern, but there are fine lines, dark spots, occasional breakouts, clogged pores, whatever it is, Curology will customize a prescription formula with 3 active ingredients picked for you to tackle your skincare needs.
It was so useful to have Curology because I have been having some hormonal acne. Okay, thank you. Now that I can explain why, it's because of this pregnancy. The licensed dermatology provider knew what was safe for me to be using. And so I didn't even have to worry about it. It was shipped to my door and I was like, this is safe for me. This is going to help me with my new skin concerns that I hadn't experienced before. And they set me up with a personalized treatment plan and shipped it right to my door. It's really amazing.
Take care of acne, dark spots, breakouts, or whatever your unique concerns may be with powerful skincare treatment made for you today.
Go to Curology.com/drink for a free 30-day trial. Just pay for shipping and handling.
That's CUROLOGY.com/drink to unlock your free 30-day trial.
See Curology.com for all the details. Okay. Well, I have a story for you if you are ready for it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. This is the story of the Lynn family murders.
Cool. One day I'm going to know what you're talking about.
I never know whether to just keep talking because sometimes you have something to say and sometimes you don't. And then I feel like I pressure you into responding. So I apologize.
No, I just feel bad that I'm always, a lot of people think like, oh, because I'm part of a true crime podcast, I like am aware of true crime, but like this is legitimately you teaching me stuff. Like I have no
That's
fucking
the
clue.
fun part, is that we get to like surprise each other every time.
I feel like people always think that like, how do I not know a single true crime case and I have a true crime podcast? I'm like, because the whole point is Christine actually educates me in real time. I
know
never heard
it's
of this.
well, people always think like, well, Christine should probably know about vaginal ectoplasm, and it's just weird how she
You
just
would think.
doesn't. You would think she
You
would.
would think. You've
And
been on this earth
actually,
long enough.
I'm lying, and I fully know a lot about it, and I'm an expert. So just saying, ask me anything. Okay. This is the story of the Lynn family murders. I feel like I haven't done I was gonna say I feel like I haven't done a family murder case in a long time, but I guess I did the Snowtown murders, which was pretty chaotic. But we are currently in New South Wales, in North Epping, and it is the year 2009. So not too long ago. Early in the morning, July 18th, 2009, Kathy Z, and that's spelled XIE for reference, Kathy Z receives a few out of the blue phone calls. She's getting calls from regular customers of her brother's news agency who are calling to ask why the shop, which is always open, isn't open today. They are like, is everything okay? What's going on? And, she has no idea. So she and her husband, his name is Leon Bin, but he goes by Robert Z, decide to head over to her brother's house to just check in, make sure everything's all right, ask why the shop isn't open, be like, people are trying to get to the shop. Where are you? And his house is only around the corner, 300 meters away. So they arrive, and Kathy immediately can tell something is off. For starters, the front door is unlocked, not usually a good sign in these kind of cases. And as they went upstairs, they were confronted with a horrifying sight. I think we can all see where this is going.
I know blood is probably involved and I hate it.
Blood is fully involved. Yes, correct.
Okay.
Ding, ding, ding. So Kathy discovers her brother, Min, who goes by Norman, and his wife, Yoon, who goes by Lily. So her brother, Norman, and his wife, Lily, are both motionless, drenched in a pool of blood.
Oh, wow.
Bad start. It gets worse. In the room next door, their two sons, Henry and Terry, had also been brutally murdered.
Oh, no.
And in another room, Lily's sister, Irene, who had been staying with them to help with the shop, was also dead.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it is an extensively brutal murder.
So 5 people.
Yes.
Wow.
All dead, 2 kids, and 3 adults. So there's blood everywhere.
Can I ask how old the kids were?
I don't have their names, but from the photos, they look probably to be like 11, 12, like young, like maybe
Yikes.
10-ish. Yeah, they look little. So obviously Kathy Lynn calls up the police straight away, and in this, they call it 000, which for us is 911. In the 000 call, you can overhear Kathy describing the crime scene in English and then briefly pleading to her husband Robert in Cantonese. And he suggested that he would go pick up his parents-in-law from their house so they could be notified as soon as possible. So it's one of those cases where it's a family, and it gets kind of confusing, all the names, if you don't like know the story. So Robert said, the husband says, you know what, I'm going to go pick up your parents, like the grandparents of the family, to make sure they're with us when they find out the news.
Right.
So he goes to pick up Kathy's parents, who are also the parents of Robert, who has just been found murdered. So if there were any kind of like good silver lining to the story, it would be that Norman and Lily's eldest child, daughter June, who goes by Brenda, had been away on a school trip to practice French in New Caledonia at the time of the murder. So she was basically the sole survivor of this immediate family, which is horrifying. But so she survived. And so Kathy and Robert are like totally, blindsided by this, especially because the whole family, apart from Brenda, who was away, had been at Norman and Kathy's parents' house for dinner only the night before, which was a family tradition that they had, that they would meet together for dinner regularly. And they had all been together the night before, and now 5 of them were brutally murdered. So very shocking.
Christ.
Yeah.
My God, that's got to be like this. I mean, an obvious statement here, but like, I can't imagine like your next get together for dinner and
Yeah,
like
how could
it's
you
just you.
how
Like,
could you cope with it must be
oh
so
my God.
jarring even on just a psychological level of like how do you
I
even
can't process it.
reconcile that? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So his name Mr. Lin Sr., who's the grandfather figure
Hmm.
essentially.
Hmm.
He would recall later that his grandsons Henry and Terry Lynn had eaten all their dinner that night, and Henry had asked his grandfather to fix his tennis shoes. So that morning, Mr. Lynn Sr. had actually called the house to let his grandson know that the shoe couldn't be fixed, but he wanted to buy him a new pair. But the phone rang, nobody picked up. And it
Oh,
almost makes it like extra sad because he had no clue what had happened, but
yeah.
he was trying to like buy his grandson a new pair of shoes and nobody picked up. So, he was obviously
Yeah,
totally
like the
blindsided.
sweet grandfather trope had to be the one
Yes.
to like find out this horrible shit.
Yes. Like while you were calling your
Yeah.
grandson to buy him new shoes, he had been murdered. Exactly. So before their murders, Norman and Lily, the parents of the family, had run an incredibly popular and successful news agency since October of 2002. They were very well liked by the Epping community. They had both migrated from China and had individually moved to Australia, where they met there and fell in love. And they soon started a family, and Brenda, who was away during the murders, was their firstborn. So Robert, the brother-in-law, who's Kathy's
Mm,
husband,
okay.
remembers Norman, his dead brother-in-law, as a very nice, hardworking, friendly person, and Brenda, the surviving family member, would remember her father as an amazing person, the hardest working person I know.
Oh,
So
God.
this is just a very beloved family, a very close knit family.
They seem,
Um,
I mean, I don't know anything else yet, but it seems like they had to have been like a freak accident, like a because you were there situation. Like it sounds like they weren't
yeah, it
like
doesn't sound like they are enemies of the community in any way,
right. It doesn't sound like they would be like they would not be my top
like
pick as like the
targeted.
next victims. Yeah.
Exactly, but we'll get there.
Okay.
We'll figure that out soon. Don't worry.
Okay.
So, Lily, who's Brenda's mother, was very loving, and Henry, Brenda's younger brother, loved tennis and tennis and badminton, and was a very outgoing, very cheery person who often played badminton with his uncle Robert.
Mm.
So, Terry, the youngest brother, used to follow Brenda around everywhere, and she'd often spend hours playing games with her two little brothers. And so, that's just to give a little background on how
Just to
close they
make
are.
my heart
Yeah,
like bleed a little
just
more.
to
Got
make this
it.
suck a little bit more for you. You're
Yeah,
welcome.
it's working.
Oh, good. If there's one talent I've learned from this podcast, it's just making people feel as shitty as possible. So I'm glad I can share that with you, share that joy with you.
Well, there you have it.
So I'm just going to give a quick recap because I know there are a lot of names here. And please ask me if because if you have a question or you're confused, I guarantee you everyone listening is confused. So just let me know if anything's unclear. But so Kathy and Robert are married. They get a
Right.
call that something's odd. Kathy's brother's shop isn't open. So Kathy and Robert go to Kathy's brother's house to make sure they're okay. They find the brother Norman and his wife Lily, his two sons, and Lily's sister Irene dead.
Mhm.
And Brenda is the surviving daughter who was out of town. So
Right.
just to clarify, but the ultimate question, obviously, at this point is who possibly, after all this, could have wanted the entire family dead?
Yeah, that's that since you opened your mouth this episode has been the question I've been wondering.
Who
What is
could it
going on?
be? Yeah, what the hell happened? So, in the days that followed, Kathy and Robert, who discovered the bodies, pleaded to
Mhm.
the public for any and all information that could be linked to the case in order to solve it. For the video, they asked that the media not show their faces because they were concerned for their own safety, which makes sense. After your entire family's murdered mysteriously, you probably don't want to be on the front page
Sure.
of every newspaper.
Like you need some alone time after something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
you probably
Nope,
need
keep
a
it private.
little privacy. So this massacre, the news of the massacre spread really quickly. Now, this is pretty sad. One person the news eventually reached was Brenda, who was on this school trip in New Caledonia.
That's how she found out?
So she found out about her parents' and family's murder via Facebook.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Isn't that just like blood chilling.
Ooh. Oh my God.
So Brenda told the Daily Mail that a friend sent her a link to a news article on Facebook that included a photo of her two-story house in Sydney. That's my house, she recalled. It was such a surreal
Oh,
sort of feeling. I think I was in so much shock I didn't believe it.
how could you? I
Can you
mean, that's
imagine
the
being the
most
friend
like,
like, "Oh, that looks a lot like your house," like not even really realizing like, "Wait a second. Oh my god."
wow.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know why that
So,
hits so close to home. I think it's just like I guess I never envisioned like in what way you find out someone's gone, and like Facebook was not on my
no,
radar.
right? I mean, you'd think at least like you'd hear from someone who's been
Someone would call you.
prepared to tell you, or
Yeah.
either an authority figure who has done this before, or a family member who can be empathetic.
Wow.
Yeah. So really rough way to find out through the media, on social media. So
Mhm.
Brenda got on the first flight home and was picked up from the airport by her Aunt Kathy and Uncle Robert. And Brenda remembered, as soon as I saw my aunt, she gave me this massive hug. She was crying
Ugh.
as well. And I think that's when I knew it was all real.
Oh my God.
So
I got nothing else to say.
it's
That's just
awful.
so
I mean,
sad.
parents, siblings, it's really awful. So Brenda went to go live with her Aunt Kathy and Uncle Robert, so that they could take care of her as kind of a substitute family, while also keeping the news agency running. They kept the business going while they kind of took her under their roof. And the community's love of the Lynn family was evident by the amount of people who attended the funeral. Brenda's school principal, Susan Bridge, had organized a bus to take students there. And she said she still remembers this day because she hadn't ever seen such raw grief in her life, because
Oh
this
my
family
God.
was just so loved by everyone.
Wow.
So, meanwhile, the investigation of the Lynn family murders was continuing behind the scenes. Both Kathy and Robert were interviewed by police, and they told the chilling memories of how they found their family's bodies. So, Robert, whose statement had been translated from Cantonese, remembered the following: I saw red everywhere. I think I saw my sister in law first. Once I saw her, I held Kathy and said for her not to look at it, but Kathy had already seen it. It was so red and messy everywhere. So I went out from the room with Kathy. We ran to the other room. I saw Terry's room door closed. Kathy pushed it open, and we saw Irene on the bed. There was lots of blood around there. I tried to touch her because I wanted to know if she was still alive. Because when I saw her, she wasn't just lying flat on the bed. So I wanted to try, but Kathy held me back. Then we came out again. We reached the last bedroom, Henry's bedroom. The door was half closed. We entered the room and we saw both children lying on the floor. It was very
Wow.
red. Blood was all around. I again wanted to touch them because they were little kids and I wanted to know if they were alive or not. Kathy held me back and was yelling, "Let's go, let's go." She was so frightened. I was so frightened as well.
Holy
Oh
shit.
my God. I mean, talk about
Wow.
trauma.
I
There's
wow,
no.
you really came to
Sorry.
ruin a day today, Christine.
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
I did. I
What a
did.
horrible, horrible quote you just read.
Yeah, the worst paragraph, one of the worst paragraphs probably ever written. Um, so with such a gruesome crime scene, with so many people having been killed, you'd think that the neighbors must have heard something. But in an interview, neighbor Janelle Ferguson said that although she was a light sleeper, she had heard nothing from the Lynn household the night of the murder, which was odd.
What? Okay.
Yeah, so it does strike me as odd as well. In the autopsy, it was determined that the family was murdered by multiple bludgeons to the head by a hammer like object, which was never found. And most had also suffered neck compression injuries and asphyxia. So,
Hmm.
assuming, strangled. In the investigation, the police couldn't find any signs of the murderer breaking and entering. It seemed like the killer had cut power to the house, which sounds like a horror movie already when they like cut the phone
Oh,
lines.
like, are you kidding me? Like, that's
Such
just
a
letting
trope.
them know, like, hey, guess what? You're not safe now.
And you're
Like,
not getting out of here. Yeah,
something really horrible is about to happen.
exactly. So they thought that the killer had cut the power to the house and then just used the front door and like waltzed on in.
Mm.
So, according to ABC News, 24 bloodied footprints were found in the home, all coming from one pair of shoe between US size 8.5 to 10.5. And this immediately led police to believe that this was one murderer acting alone, not,
Right.
multiple. And so they followed the footsteps, and that's how they were able to track the killer's movements. They noted that the killer had moved quickly down the hallway, going first into Aunt Irene's room. And from this minimal amount of evidence, the police decided to believe that this was not just a random murderer. So,
Okay.
based on what we were saying earlier, they believe the opposite, that because of the nature of the vicious attacks, as well as how the killer
It was
seemingly,
personal.
yeah, and the fact that the killer knew the layout of the house
Mm.
and must have had access to a key because they didn't
Uh-huh.
break in. It wasn't just a burglary that had escalated. And so the chief of police told the news, it doesn't bear the hallmarks of a typical home invasion in that we haven't established anything that was stolen from the home.
Question.
So, yes,
So yeah, I think you probably already said this and I'm just like totally
I'm
blanking,
kind of
but
talking really fast. I apologize.
no, how did they die? Was it stabbings? Was it shootings? Was it
Bludgeons to the head, and then, sorry, let me
fuck.
read it again. The autopsy determined that the family was murdered by multiple bludgeons to the head by a hammer like object, which was never found. Most had also suffered neck compression injuries and asphyxia, which
Oh
presumably
yeah, okay.
means they were strangled.
I for some reason I didn't remember the bludgeonings, but I remember the asphyxia.
Yeah, yeah. So
Wow. Okay. Got it.
the murder weapon was never found, but it looked like they had been bludgeoned
Okay.
repeatedly.
Got it. Thank you for repeating in
Yeah,
my
I'm so glad that you wanted me to say that twice.
okay. Well, so cuz I mean my thought is like I mean maybe they were sleeping I guess or something, but if there were 5 people in that house, like couldn't there have been like a struggle or something? I guess you'll get to it, right?
Yeah, I don't totally. You'd think so, right? Because
You
even
would think it's 5 against 1.
yeah, and you'd think the neighbor didn't, because the neighbor didn't hear anything. It's
Yeah.
odd because you'd think if you're killing 5 separate people that it would
Especially
someone would have
2 in
woken
one
up.
room, 2 in another room, like there was one person just watching it happen or I don't know.
Yeah, you know what?
Were they sleeping?
I assume so because it seemed to
Okay.
have happened in the middle of the night. So presumably they were asleep. Uh,
Okay, that
and
checks out.
my guess is that Irene was in one of the boys' rooms because she was visiting and the
Mhm.
boys were in the same room because they were sharing a room because their aunt was
Right, right.
visiting and staying in. So that's presumably why. But yeah, I don't totally know if there's any clarity on like the fighting back or
Okay.
anything like that.
Sorry. Yeah, I just
No, no.
didn't know.
Sorry, my sister's like, I have a surprise for you.
Uh-oh. What could that be?
I bet you it's bubble tea because I keep making her bring it to me.
Now that she's got a license?
Yeah, now she's alive. Exactly. I'm like, I'm taking full advantage, man. I can't wait till I can drink again and then, have her drive me around. Okay.
So you were at the cop making a statement.
Right. Okay. So they said it didn't look like a typical home invasion. Nothing had been stolen from the house. So presumably this was a personal attack. So they believed that whoever killed them basically knew them personally, knew the layout of the house, knew the family. And one of the people that shot straight up the list of potential suspects, was Robert, Kathy's
Mm.
husband, who was one of the people who found the bodies. So Robert had trained to be an ear, nose, and throat specialist in China before moving to Melbourne in 2006, where he met Kathy. And when he moved to Melbourne, according to the Daily Telegraph, Robert had opened a restaurant, but the venture failed, and so he and Kathy moved to Sydney.
Mm.
They had lived there and were kind of dipping in and out of employment ever since. They were struggling with money, and this had caused a bit of tension in the family. It was hypothesized that Robert could have a motive for killing Norman and his family because Mr. Lynn Sr., so his father-in-law, uh, and his wife, so Norman and Kathy's parents, his parents-in-law, viewed Norman and Lily's family in higher regard than Robert and Kathy's. So
Huh.
basically, they thought he had this like, what's the word? Uh,
Envy?
yeah, like the
Or
inferiority complex.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And potentially envy as far as like he was not as successful. His business ventures had failed, and his
Right.
brother-in-law had this successful company and this beautiful
Right.
family. And
Feeling
that
like a
was,
shadow.
yeah, yeah. And so they believed that might have been the motive, or he at least could have had a motive for killing them.
Okay.
So he's up there on the suspect list. And with that in mind, according to the Sydney Morning Herald, a heated argument had taken place less than 2 months before the gruesome murder. And in this argument, Mr. Lynn Sr. had said to his daughter, Kathy, and son in law, Robert, "We are not happy about the situation with you not working and just getting social welfare."
Oh,
So they were not approving of this relationship. They didn't like that their daughter had married this guy who wasn't making money, and
got it.
so this had just happened recently before the murder. So this just added fuel to the fire of him
Right.
being a suspect. So the Sydney Morning Herald continued saying that Mr. Lynn Sr. revealed soon after the Lynn family's funeral, Robert suggested that he and Kathy should take control of Norman's assets. Mr. Lin Sr. said he told Robert that according to Chinese tradition, once a daughter marries, she ceases to formally be a member of her old family and becomes a member of her husband's family,
Right.
meaning that Mr. Lin Sr.'s daughter, Kathy, and Robert were a separate family. So they didn't have, in his mind, access or claim to the
Right.
inheritance, to the assets of their dead relatives, which totaled, by the way, to approximately $2 million. So talk about
Okay.
motive.
Right. LOL.
LOL.
Wow.
So now this father-in-law is saying, like, well, actually, technically, you don't have any claim to this inheritance, but nice try. So this inheritance dispute headed toward litigation, and the relationship between Mr. Lin Sr. and his son-in-law continued to be tense and get worse. Mr. Lin Sr. observed there had been no conflict between the two families before the murder. And in fact, before the 5 members of my son's family were murdered, we had a normal and good relationship. It was only after the 5 members of the family were murdered that we started to have disputes with them. The disputes were mainly concerned with the guardianship of Brenda and my son's inheritance.
Mm.
So now this family is in, like, butting heads over the money and the surviving daughter.
Right.
Where should she go? So, with this potential motive, investigators not only combed through the crime scene at the Lynn household, but also naturally investigated Robert and Kathy's house. Unfortunately, in Robert's interview on July 18, 2009, he revealed that he had just happened to clean up his garage a few hours after the murder.
Just a casual, just a sweep,
Just a quick
just
sweep.
yeah, just a
Just
quick perusal,
I
just
just need to
getting the
Swiffer it.
clutter out.
Just
Yeah,
Swiffer it like a little bit into the corners. Yeah.
not
So
a huge spring clean, just a walk around,
just
just
a
see what
touch up.
touch up, slapping some paint on that barn.
Just like spray some Febreze. So he revealed that he had happened to clean up his garage just hours after the murders because, well, it was a bit untidy.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, that doesn't pan out unless he's completely like putting that in the back of his mind and
Yeah.
like
That's how he deals with
locking
grief or
locking the
something.
trap door. Yeah.
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 So interestingly, now this is your favorite part of the Night Stalker case, the bloody footprints turned out to be
Fucking footprints.
turned out to contain a lot of telling information for investigators.
Okay.
So much like Richard
Finally,
Ramirez.
Jesus Christ.
I know, finally it has
Can you
something.
put those people on the Richard Ramirez case and like, because those cops knew what they were talking about with feet.
Yeah. Well, remember, but the Richard Ramirez, they tracked the shoes all the way to the shoe store that it sold them, but they didn't have a record of who bought them. So that was more just like sad luck. But
It's still trash. It was still, I didn't like having
it
to be a
was
part of that story.
wholly infuriating.
Yes.
So the shoe prints at the crime scene matched the style of an Asics gel elevation shoe.
Okay.
Guess who had a pair of Asics gel elevation shoes in size 9.5?
Robert did it.
Robert did it. Okay, I was gonna say no one. Just kidding. It was Robert. But when you said Robert did it, I was totally thrown. That was the perfect response. Yes, Robert had a pair of Asics gel elevation right in that sweet spot of sizing that they had estimated the shoes to be. Also, the investigation observed that the only room, now this is interesting, where there were no traces of bloody footprints was Brenda's. So if the murderer was looking to murder everyone in the house, how would the killer
Uh-huh.
have known, right? To like not go into her bedroom unless
Sneaky.
they knew that she was out of town.
Sneaky.
Very sneaky. So this all came to a head when a year after the murders, a tiny stain that had been discovered under a chest of drawers on the floor of Robert's garage was reanalyzed. One of the forensic experts, Jay Gerhard, who had trained in bloodstain pattern analysis, was convinced that the tiny stain, which would have famously become known as Stain 91, which sounds like a band,
Wow.
in my opinion.
Like
Stain
Area
91.
51.
Yeah. Said that he believed that Stain 91 was a transfer stain. So a transfer stain, according to the Australian, is the kind of stain produced from coming into contact with an object such as clothing, a weapon, or a bag wet with blood. So basically it's like transferred to a
Uh-huh.
surface. It's not like dripping from you or something. It's like
Right.
had been pressed on by another object.
Got it.
So he believed that's what it was. So lab tests proved that the tiny mark was consistent with the DNA of the slain Lynn family members. So it was indeed their blood. Things are not looking good for Robert and his shoes and his nice Asics. It didn't help that a secret camera the police had installed in Robert's kitchen saw him cutting up an Asic gel elevations shoebox.
Bye. Well, there you have
See
it.
ya. Yeah, he was cutting it up and then he was soaking it in water and then he was flushing it down the toilet.
Fire is such an easier way to do anything. I don't
Valid point,
like
Timothy.
what a waste of time.
I mean, you can't even claim like, oh, that's how I get rid of garbage. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
No, nobody does that.
You know what? How you can't get rid of garbage? Incinerator. Just saying.
Yeah, and honestly, that happens a lot where people are like, oh, I just had a bonfire, which I mean, to be fair, is also sus as hell, but whatever. So he is literally on a secret camera, like cutting up a shoebox of the exact shoes that were the prints were found at the crime scene. So not a good look. Robert was arrested, not surprisingly, on May 5th, 2011. And it took him, his wife Kathy, and niece Brenda by total surprise. Robert's trial was scheduled for September of 2013. And this is kind of sweet. So remember how I mentioned earlier there was a principal at Brenda's school who had like gotten a school bus to like bring all the students. So her name's Susan Bridge, and she was the one who persuaded Brenda to get a lawyer. So Brenda's like in high school, and this principal is kind of like taking her under her wing and being like, you need a lawyer at this point.
Got it.
Which I love.
Yeah, I'm loving, well, not surprised that people at, I was going to say teachers, but I guess she's the principal or something.
Yeah, principal, yeah.
But yeah, loving that educators are taking in kids.
Yeah,
and they need to be paid more.
Protecting them, right? Exactly,
because they love your children
and doing a job that like somebody needs to fucking do, and somebody isn't doing.
Also, by the way, last week was Teachers Appreciation Week, so just taking the segue to thank teachers for not teaching me how to fucking pronounce segue.
Whoa, that took a turn. Okay,
just kidding. I appreciate all of my teachers.
Yes, thank you.
A handful of you.
Thank you for, you know who you are.
You know who you are.
Thank you for all that you do. We, especially this past year, we appreciate you endlessly. So in a 7 News special, which debuted years later, Principal Bridge described how she had witnessed a strange encounter between Brenda and Robert, her uncle. So this goes again to the notion of this principal taking care, like keeping an eye on and taking care of one of her students. So she said he was so physically close to her face, speaking loudly and rapidly in Cantonese. Brenda's head was down and she was crying. It was clear he was trying to get her to agree to something. I did feel that I had seen a side of Robert that was potentially a dangerous side. That night, Principal Bridge had confided to her husband, I think I've spent all day with a murderer.
Ooh, this girl's onto something.
She's like
she's sensing the gut vibes and she's listening to them.
I love that as a principal, she's finally like, okay, these skills that I've had that have been laying dormant are finally coming to use, like in a big way.
Yeah.
So in Brenda's meetings with her lawyer, she revealed that this is another dark turn. She revealed that her uncle Robert had been sexually abusing her since well before the murders even took place.
Oh my God. Wow.
And
it just keeps getting worse.
It just keeps getting worse. And she originally wasn't even sure if it was relevant to the murder trial. But with this new information, Brenda's lawyer had no choice but to postpone the trial. So it was postponed one more time. And then apparently the judge got sick, so they postponed it one more time. So it was February of 2015 that the trial commenced. And remember, the murders took place in 2009. So this is like a big gap of time. Basically, Brenda's had to grow up in this whole span of time too, which is really sad. Like not even knowing the real truth of anything. So just really, really dark stuff. It was at the trial that Brenda was confronted with all the evidence previously discussed. You know, she hadn't known all this, that the prosecutors had all this against her uncle until the trial. So now she's seeing all this in front of her, which
Wow.
must have been just shocking.
Yeah, because I was about to say, well, if you had 6 years to like at least process the grief, maybe it kind of worked in a silver lining way of like when you got to court, you could really like focus and not have your
Yeah,
emotions
true.
overwhelm you. But then if you're just gonna get thrown all this information you didn't know about for 6 fucking years, and now you're like back to being all
And you've
jarred
been
and
living with the man, right? Like she's been living
yeah.
with these people and like didn't know that they had all this against him, that they were building this case. So yeah,
Wow.
she didn't even know any of this until the actual trial. So at the trial, she was confronted with all this evidence, which must have just been super jarring. And of course, Brenda and her grandparents were at the trial as well, and they were all completely, you know, just it's just heart wrenching. They were carrying photos of the family members as they left the courtroom. Just their photos of them holding photos of their kids and their grandkids. It's very sad. So we're back to Stain 91. Stain 91 was presented as evidence, and Robert's lawyer, Belinda Rigg, refused to accept that Stain 91 was actually blood and said the DNA could have been transferred to the garage floor in a number of different ways unrelated to the murders. She urged the
Okay.
jury to understand how highly uncertain this data is and claimed that the DNA of the two deceased boys could also have gotten onto the garage floors because they played regularly in the garage before their deaths, which I guess is fair. Like, it's not that absurd, I guess, to think, like, oh, maybe they scraped their knee and
I guess
I
so. You're
guess,
right.
right? Like, it's like bullshit, you know, because we are hearing this whole story, but I can see why that wouldn't be the
It's
most compelling.
it's a lukewarm, solid defense.
Agreed. Like, it's not out. It's not like
I don't want to
thinkable.
agree with you, but but okay.
Yeah, it's sort of like, well, I guess you have a point in my personal
Mhm.
opinion.
Yeah.
So
I
the
don't want you to have a point, but you've got the point.
you never want me to have a point. Don't worry, I'm used to it. Just kidding. So the prosecution made the case that on the night of the murder, Robert had sedated his wife, Kathy, in order to sneak out of the house unnoticed. And the following day, when he had gone to pick up his parents in law, he had also, remember when he said, like, oh, I'll go pick up your parents to make sure they're with us when they find out
Mhm.
the news. They believe on that drive, he had used that as the time to dispose of the murder weapon that was never found. So that's
Oh,
kind
I
of how
see.
they pictured the whole timeline going. So now we're all wondering, like, well, how did they come up with this? Because it's like, oh, then he threw the murder weapon away on the trip, and it's like, well, how would you, like, it sounds like a guess, right?
Yeah.
Well, turns out they actually had some intel that nobody knew about.
Hot goss. Oh
Some
my
hot
gosh.
prison goss, let's put it that
Oh.
way.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it didn't help for Robert's case that while in Long Bay Prison, Robert had confided in a fellow inmate known as Witness A, who happened to be a prison informant
Uh-huh. There we are.
undercover.
Why wouldn't you think you were gonna get put with like
How stupid.
if you were like the hot ticket like crime that people are really investigating right
Yes.
now, why wouldn't you think they'd plant someone?
Plant someone who's asking you about the murder. I mean, come
Truly.
on. And I'll tell you in a minute how this guy, Witness A, convinced him to talk. It's just
I
pathetic.
bet he literally said this. Talk.
Yeah, I mean, Eb, you're not fucking far off. I'll put it that. You could
Wow.
probably be a prison informant.
If
So
look, if it's just that, if it's me sitting on a bunk bed going, "Tell me the hot goss," then
actually, I think you already are a prison informant, and I just haven't
it's called
realized
Tea
it.
Time Tuesday, actually.
Oh my god! Also, I've given you so much fucking ammo. I need to be more careful. Oh no, you are witness B.
As
So
in, be careful,
as
because I'll
in
get you.
witness T, Tea Time Tuesdays. I love it.
Okay, anyway, sorry, witness A, witness A.
So witness A, whose real name, by the way, was Josh, which was later revealed, according
Okay.
to a 9 News article, Robert had told Josh, witness A, that he had bought the hammer he used from a $2 store, that he had martial arts training, and that he had demonstrated on witness A pressure point in the neck, which meant he could easily incapacitate his victims. So essentially, what he's saying happened is he bought this hammer from the dollar store, the $2 store.
Yeah.
Uh,
Excuse me, everything is twice the price there. Why would you go there?
why would you not go? Listen, I'm not gonna ask because maybe the quality of the hammers are slightly
When
different.
Dollar Tree is right down the road, by the way.
Come on, come
Ditto
on,
town. And in
be a
LA, there's the
cheapskate like
99-cent
us.
store. Why would you? I mean, come on. At that, sorry, moving on.
Maybe in New South Wales they only have $2 stores. Who knows?
Maybe.
So he's basically saying now that he has this knows because of his martial arts training, he knows of a pressure point in the neck that will incapacitate you. So that is, I guess, goes to the point of how did they
The
not fight back?
asphyxia.
Or like
Oh,
how did they like if he incapacitated them and then bludgeoned them,
right,
I
right.
guess it
That
makes
checks out.
sense why they weren't
Moving or
screaming
struggling or
or
whatever.
fighting. Right. So I don't know that. I guess that's
And yeah, if it's in the neck, maybe it's like hitting their windpipe or something, so they couldn't scream, and then the light sleeper next door didn't hear anything.
yeah, exactly. Well, if it's I mean, I think what he's saying is like it knocks you unconscious basically. So
Oh,
a
like
pressure point
sleep.
that like
Good night.
incapacitates you, I think is what I'm gathering, but I mean, I
Got it.
could be wrong. So in terms of Josh, aka Witness A's tactics in getting intel from Robert, getting the tea, he just kept saying that they had to look out for each other and they built a bond on that. And that's literally all he did. And the guy was like, I'll
See
fucking
ya.
talk. Like
Yeah, exactly.
bragging, basically, which
I'll
is so
sing.
fucked
I'll
up.
fucking
Yeah,
sing.
I'll sing for you. And also, you killed two children too. It's not like, oh, I killed like some guy that did me wrong. It's like you murdered two children and you're bragging about it. It's sick. I mean,
Yeah, and I was kind of wondering up until this point too if he at least felt some sort of shame
oh
about it, and now I have no doubts. Got it. He
yeah,
does not.
it's yeah, yeah, yeah. He thinks he's hot shit, you know. Um, so he says he killed them and he's proud of it, blah, blah, blah. Josh even entered one conversation with Robert wearing a hidden listening device, and it picked up Robert talking about the murder and the murder weapon. So, like, this guy's just blabbing away at every chance he has.
Not a care in the
Probably
world.
the easiest undercover job ever, but I
That
don't
guy
know.
had to have been thinking in his own head, like, are you fucking, I'm getting paid to do this? Like,
Yeah, damn. He did actually. There was a quote where he said something like, "It felt like tying on my," they said footy, but like soccer, like tying on my soccer cleats again. Like I was like back in
right.
the game. I was like amped up. I mean, he's doing a good job here. He must just be one of those trustworthy people that people just like blab to, you know,
Those warm eyes, they always get you.
just suck you right in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, on trial, Robert's barrister argued that a jury shouldn't be allowed to hear these taped conversations because the tape was wholly indecipherable in parts, and that Josh had misrepresented himself and violated his client's fundamental right to silence because he never would have met with Josh if he'd known he was a police officer. The judge rejected this argument and provided the recordings to the jury to be considered in the trial because that's bullshit. So, oh,
Uh-huh.
if he knew this was a cop, he wouldn't have told him all about the. Well, no shit. Duh.
That's the point
That's
of an
literally the
informant.
point
What
of
are
a
you
hidden
talking about?
wire. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was a Hail Mary that did not
It's like,
work.
what about the security footage
Yes,
in the
exactly.
kitchen? Like,
If he knew there
okay.
was a security camera, he wouldn't be like paper macheing his shoe boxes. I mean, like, well, duh. Stupid argument. Yeah. So when explaining what Robert's motive was, according to the Sydney Morning Herald, prosecutor Tanya Smith said the perceptions of him invoked intense emotions, including anger and resentment, and he directed these emotions at Norman and his wife. She added also, he was hurting the people that had not given him the respect and admiration he believed he was entitled to.
Hmm.
So he just felt like he wasn't being respected by his wife's family. So maybe they should all die, which is
Wow.
beyond. So
Beyond.
beyond. On top of this, Robert's assault of his niece Brenda added another layer to this. That perhaps by wiping out the whole family, Robert would be able to guarantee that Brenda would live under the same roof as him, which is so chilling.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's one of those riddles you play with people of like, can you think like a killer or something of like,
Yes. How sick is that?
yeah, didn't even put those two things together.
No, me neither. Because
Totally makes sense.
why would you even think of that? But then, of course, he argued to have her live with him.
Yeah.
And years later, Brenda came forward to say the abuse had escalated once she moved in with the Z's after her
Ugh,
family's murder, which is just heartbreaking,
I can't even
especially.
begin to think about her knowing she had to go live with him.
Yes, that's a really good point too. Like, finding out on Facebook your whole family's been murdered, and then, hey, you're moving in with your uncle who assaults you. Like, uh,
Yeah.
and
And
by
there
the way,
and there's nowhere to run. This isn't a temporary hangout. This is like your
this
parents
is
are
your
dead and not
home
gonna save
now.
you.
And every time the trial is set, it's postponed again. So, like, it's just going to keep going and
Fuck.
going and going. So, just all bad. And that added a whole new layer to it, a new horrific layer. So, although the trial ended in a hung jury after 11 days of deliberation, in December 2015, after another trial, Robert was found guilty of murder in a majority verdict of 11-1. On
Who the fuck was Mr. One?
listen, I don't know. Maybe him in a mustache, maybe him as a cardboard cutout. Like, I don't know who the fuck was in that jury. Going, I don't think I'm convinced. It's like,
Yeah. What
okay.
on earth? Okay. I don't
So,
wow.
yeah, I mean, they
It
have a
was witness B who wasn't doing his job very
it
well.
was witness B. I mean, they have a literal tape of him talking about how he did it and where he disposed of the murder weapon, and
That guy literally fell asleep in the middle of the jury and then woke up and was like, "What? What?
was like,
Oh, I
no,
don't
I
know."
mean, what are we voting on? Yeah,
Yeah.
it must be. Like, there's no fucking way. So it's just wild, but thank God he was finally convicted, found guilty of murder. And on January 12th, 2017, after the verdict was announced, Robert proclaimed, I did not murder the Lynn family. I am innocent. And guess what? His wife, Kathy, still to this day believes he is innocent.
Okay, Albert Gustav, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and apparently every man.
Albert! Yeah,
Get with the program. It
Kathy,
is obvious.
yeah, Kathy like fully believes her husband. And I mean, to me, I'm no psychiatrist, obviously, and I'm not making a diagnosis here, but it sounds like um denial.
It, I don't think you need to be a
I know,
psychiatrist
you're right. It's a
to
stupid thing to say. It sounds like
be like,
denial, maybe,
girl, get with the
but
program.
like, to find out your uh your niece is,
Yeah,
is being abused by, I mean, you hear those stories where like the
yeah.
parents don't want to believe it because it would just shatter their whole worldview or whatever, and it just sounds, and that must just be so isolating for Brenda too, that like her own aunt doesn't believe.
Doesn't live, but does, yeah, isn't
Yeah,
on her side.
it's really,
Wow.
really hard to hear. Again, thank God for that principal who was like, I fucking got your
Truly,
back.
teacher of the year.
Honestly. So, Kathy maintains that her husband was framed by police and that this was a prejudiced cover up. Maybe she
Good
was on the
grief.
jury. I have no clue. So, this insistence to prove her husband's innocence escalated to the extent that during the trial, she would bombard her niece, Brenda, with texts.
Trash.
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 And Brenda
Nope.
later explained in the 7 News TV special, I was very disappointed by that because when I gave evidence, I told the truth. And she used to send me messages saying that he was innocent. He was being framed by police. I hope one day she can realize that all I did was tell the truth. She's better off not with him.
Oh my God.
Brenda, you got a fucking head on those shoulders because I would have been like,
Brenda, how on earth have you stayed grounded after
so
you
grounded,
you deserve to be a mess. Like,
so
come
mature,
on.
so
Like,
grounded.
you have gotten it. You are a gem,
You've
a
been put
star.
through, I would say hell, but it's probably worse than that. So I don't even know the right word.
Hell sounds nice compared to this.
Yes. So it had taken 4 trials spanning over 7.5 years, but finally Robert was convicted. And in February of 2017, Brenda courageously talked about the brutal murder of her family on 7 News. And through tears, she said, I'd give anything to have my family back before thanking all the people who showed her kindness. Quote, I started off being really bitter. I didn't like what happened to me. I blamed the world. Throughout that journey,
Oh
every
my
day
God.
people reached out a helping hand. It's really changed my life. I mean,
Wow.
probably the most mature young person I've ever heard of.
What a star. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit. I would not like I would be not that
I can
stable.
barely forgive my like high school ex-boyfriend, like let alone like get over something like this and cope with it in a mature way. I can't fathom.
I mean,
Um
wow. Snaps to you. All good energy to you for the rest of your life.
Truly,
Wow.
and I mean, thankfully I have a positive update here, which is that based on her Instagram, she lives with an adorable husky named Sky. So
Oh,
sweet. and she's graduated from the University of Sydney, and she did a degree that seems to be law, and it doesn't point blank say it's law, but there's a picture. One of her posts is a shredded textbook all over the floor with the caption, "The remains of my textbook. I guess Sky is not too keen on taxation law." And so she seems to be doing well,
She
and
sounds funny. She sounds like
she
a like
sounds
a little pistol.
yes, exactly, and sounds funny, and posting positive sweet photos and getting a degree in law and having a baby husky pup. I
Wow.
mean,
She
kicking
deserves it.
ass. Yeah. So
I think this is the first time you've ever been able to give an Instagram update on someone.
I've definitely done some Facebook ones because they were like older where you could
Mm,
still see their profiles
right.
before they disappeared or whatever. But yeah, I think Instagram's not one I usually think to look at. I gotta
Wow.
maybe I'll do that more often in the future. But yeah, you
Well,
know what?
if you hear this, I don't know if you would, but if you hear this, Brenda, like you are such a fucking rock star.
Man,
I can't
quite
imagine.
honestly, you're my role model.
Uh-huh. Well,
Hero.
you've definitely got it together compared to me, and I really got
Compared to
nothing to
most
complain about.
people ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let
Well
alone,
done.
yeah.
You did it. You're if I don't know what your beliefs are, but I imagine the universe is smiling on you. You've
Yeah.
really knocked it out of the park.
Agreed. So that is the story of the Lynn family murders. Very tragic, very dark, but just
Wow.
another one of those horrible things. But at least the guy's in fucking jail.
Yeah, but like not
At
a moment too
least.
fucking soon. Like,
No.
oh, come on. Like that
No.
guy needed to be in jail at least a decade
Pronto.
before.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's awful.
before the murders even, right? Like he was
Before the murders,
already
how about for
abusing her.
just assaulting your fucking niece nonstop? Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah.
Wow. That is just, I can't imagine.
No.
Well, I hope he's having a really horrid time there.
I do
I
too.
hope
I mean, he killed 2 kids, so I can't imagine people love that about him.
that does bode well for my wish that he's having a horrid time. So, anyway, great telling of the story, but what a awful story.
Dude, my child's going to be born with like some you said your child's going to be weird. I think both our children are going to have some real weird like
Yeah,
thoughts
because
and
like you think,
stories in their heads.
well, I mean, if it's even like food and product and stuff that you put on your body and in your body that the baby retains, like imagine the stress of having to read these stories every fucking week.
Yeah,
And the baby's gonna come out being like, ah! Like,
yeah, put me back. Yeah, my therapist.
that baby's gonna need a gravity blanket immediately.
My therapist is like, "What are you doing for self-care?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Nothing. What are you talking about?" So I'm trying
The
to
baby's
be.
gonna be like, I need wine and I need it now.
I
Give me.
Sorry, Mom, that I made wine an aversion to you because I think we both need it. Yes.
I didn't mean it. I didn't know better yet.
I didn't know. Yeah. So you know what? We'll see what happens. Too late now.
Well, anyway, thank you everyone for this very long episode. It was literally like a 2.5-hour episode.
Oops.
But I hope that you enjoyed that car ride that hopefully you're on, or I hope you deep cleaned your apartment like you promised you would.
Not just a Swiffer sweep in the corner, a deep
Nope.
clean.
Maybe you're taking, I don't know, whatever you're doing. I hope that you were productive
Make
while
sure
you listened
stain
to
91 is gone.
Make sure stain 91 is gone. And everyone send good energy to Brenda because
yes, please.
Again, rock star status. So I guess that's it. Oh, well, no, by the time this comes out, we will know the results of the Webbies. But thank you to all the people who voted in the last couple weeks.
So much.
It means a lot that you like listening to us. And it's just a really very wonderful.
Humbling experience.
Yes, and we appreciate you. So if you'd like to follow us anywhere else, you can check out our website, and that's drink.com. Our social media is ATWWD Podcast, which is also our Patreon if you would like exclusive content such as the escape room that I talked about earlier. And I think that's it.
That's it.
If you want to rewatch the other horror that is the Maltese Bagans, you can go check out Christine's YouTube channel.
It's there. You'll find it.
And
that's
why
we
drink.
Or don't drink in my case.
Or my case.
Or their case, yeah. Okay.
This is the first episode of, and that's why neither of us drink.
That's a very good point. Except for that one that girl said, remember, she was like, "Oh, I hope your 30-day not drinking went well." And I was like, "Ah, I'm sure it didn't." Sounds horrific.